participating in tonight's meeting? Ready? So, Madam Secretary, we're missing one person. Are we aware that person is here tonight?
I didn't hear from him, so I will give him a call
All right.
after, but we do have a.
Okay, we do have a quorum.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, good evening, everyone, again. Call to order the North Miami Planning Commission meeting for Tuesday, June 7th. This is also a possibility that this same meeting may carry over to Thursday, June 9th. We are going to set a time limit tonight to cut off at 10 o'clock if we are not on the last item by 10 o'clock. We anticipate there's going to be a lot of discussion with every item tonight, and to be fair, and give everybody an opportunity and not go into late morning, we purposely scheduled this for 2 nights so that we can get a chance for everybody to speak on whatever items they have concerns about and to address this panel and to bring up all their points that they wish to present to this commission. So having said that, we'll go ahead and begin. I'd like to, again, we've called this to order. Let's all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. Madam Secretary, may we have a roll call, please?
Yes, Chairman Ernst,
Present.
Commissioner Blimmer,
Present.
Commissioner McDermott,
Present.
Commissioner Each, Commissioner Medina, Commissioner Clark, Commissioner Bowe.
Present.
You have a quorum.
Thank you very much. And again, we do not know if Mr. Clark is
No,
going to be late or whatever.
no, I'm not sure.
Okay. All right, thank you. Staff, do we have any amendments to the agenda?
No, sir, we do not.
All right. And Debbie, I brought up to, on a couple of the printed out agendas, we had a double typo, which I corrected and let her know. It was on item PC 1744. It's just merely the first line was repeated twice. I'll let you know for the record that
Thank you, sir.
was struck. Okay, call for motion to approve the minutes
So
of
moved.
the May 3rd meeting. I have a motion from Vice Chair McDermott. We have a second on that motion.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Each. All in favor, say aye.
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 Minutes have been approved. Any communications, Mr. Held?
I do, Mr. Chair.
Yes,
Our next meeting is scheduled to be 7/5,
yes.
July. And of course, that is the day after 4th of July. So I wanted to see if you would like to schedule an alternative date for that, whether it's that week or the following Thursday. And the board secretary has confirmed the availability, so just wanted to put that on your radar that you need to give me a different date
There's no
for July.
commission meeting on the following Tuesday, which would be the 12th.
There's a city council meeting for that date, so it would have to be, as we usually do, Thursday.
Right.
And Ms. Thomas, what is our availability?
So the week of July 4th, we have the 5th available, which we're trying to change. The 7th, anytime during that week. We also have the 13th, 14th,
At the 14th.
which the 14th is a Thursday.
Oh, okay, so it's the 14th then, thank you. Or the
And-
14th.
I had no problems with the 5th. If anybody else had a problem with that, let me,
Totally up to you all. We just wanted to raise that in case you all
I have
did
no
not
problem
want to
on
have a
the
meeting the
5th,
day after
July
4th of
5th.
July.
It might be a problem, for staff or some of our other members. There's a problem. I would push it back a couple of weeks or a week. I mean, it is.
Well,
Like
we
the
can't push it
following
back.
on
Well,
the
if we don't
following
have anything
Thursday.
that's urgent, why not?
It would be the following Thursday.
Which
I-
would be
And
what
then
date?
you all will
I
be
have no
on
problem.
recess in August.
Right.
What day would that be?
What date would that be?
Ms. Thomas, what date would that be?
The following Thursday,
Yes.
that week is the 7th, or the 14th,
The 14th is the following
is
week?
the following week,
Right.
yeah,
You could either
July
do it that
14th.
Thursday of the same week, which is what date?
the 14th.
The same, that's the 7th,
The
or the
same
following
week,
week.
right, or the following week.
So
Either
it's
the
either the same
7th or
week.
the 14th.
7th or 14th.
All right,
So
14th,
14th.
everyone, 14th?
14th.
Yeah, I think we have a consensus then,
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair.
we're good on that. Mr. Bob, are we okay on that? Thank you, sir. All
Thank
right,
you,
so
everyone.
14th it is. Thank you very much, staff. Any continued public hearings that we need to address?
No, we do not, sir.
Very good. So we'll go ahead and begin the public hearing portion of this. Tonight, we have 7 items on the agenda. Yes, Mr. Held, I'm sorry.
It's okay. My presentation on
Yes.
quasi-judicial items, thank you. Okay. So some of the applications tonight are considered quasi-judicial, and this is a summary of the rules that apply to those particular items. That would include items like conditional uses and special exceptions, the plat request, possibly the zoning change. So the commission will sit like a court, hence the term quasi-judicial, reviewing the facts presented at the hearing, applying the adopted rules as explained by staff in the staff report and verbally. Commission members can make site visits, but must disclose the evidence upon which they intend to rely from that visit. Commission members will disclose at the beginning of the hearing whether they have had communications with individuals on behalf of the applicant or otherwise, including who the communication was with and what the topic of discussion was. All persons intending to speak to the commission on quasi-judicial items will be sworn by the clerk. Staff will make a presentation, the commission may ask questions. The applicant will then make a presentation, including expert witnesses, if any. Commission may ask further questions. When the public hearing is open, the public can make comments on each application limited to 2 minutes each. Citizen testimony must be fact-based, not opinion. Commission will then deliberate based upon the evidence presented. Commission's decision must be based upon competent, substantial evidence, meaning based on the record, staff presentations, expert presentations, and fact-based comments by citizens, according to the standards for approval set forth in the City Code. Commission may approve, deny, or continue each item. While staff previously read into the record emailed comments, we have concluded this is improper in quasi-judicial matters, as the person sending the email is not sworn and there is no opportunity for cross-examination. Written comments provided before the meeting are available for review by commissioners. Lastly, we ask each of you to treat this proceeding with respect, no calling out, interrupting speakers, or disrupting the proceeding. These matters are prohibited and enforceable pursuant to the City Code. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Earl. First item on tonight's agenda is PC 17-42, a resolution of the mayor and the city council of the city of North Miami, Florida, approving fiscal year 2022 to 2023 annual action plan under the Community Development Block Grant, better known as CDBG, and Home Investment Partnerships Program called HOME, providing for an effective date and for all other purposes. May we have, before we begin, staff, oh yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't see Debbie there. Staff, may I have your report, please? While we're waiting for that, I do need to bring up whether or not any commission members, this item is listed that we do have to have disclosure if anyone has had any contact with the public or any comments or discussions on this item, according to
This would not be one of the quasi.
This is not one of them?
No.
Okay, it's listed under here as such. That was a typo? It's one of the typos I didn't catch. All right, okay, very good. If you can point out that one so we don't go through that again. Second one,
Joining us this evening for the first two items on the agenda is Albert Bazil. She is the Housing Director, Housing and Social Services Director. She has a brief presentation and she'll go over her two projects, her two resolutions, and in the order that they're shown here.
all right.
Ms. Bazil?
Good
Good
evening.
evening, Chairman and board members. Here tonight, it's a repeating item. You have it every year. Once we receive our allocation from HUD, it is required that we prepare our annual action plan. And two public hearings is required, and this one is considered as the first one. The second one will be followed by your recommendation to the council, the mayor and council for final approval. I'm here, I have it here with me. Okay, Dunya got it. This year is considered year 3 of the consolidated plan. Back in 2020, during the pandemic, we had to come up with our 5-year consolidated plan. It is a hard requirement that we present every 5 years how we intend to conduct our affordable housing programs, our public services program. So which we did, and every year we need to present, each time we receive our allocation, we need to present our annual action plan, which needs to be consistent with the 5-year consolidated plan. I'm gonna do a quick background and context of the 5-year consolidated plan, followed by the annual action plan. One of the other requirements of the annual action plan, we need to have public participation and community input. And then we're gonna show you what was the priorities and the needs for the 2020-24 consolidated plan, reviewed by you and approved by council at that time, back in 2020. Then we're gonna present the resources that we receive for this year and how we're gonna distribute, we're gonna allocate those fundings. And the next step will be, what's the next step for us to present the item to the council and then to HUD. The consolidated plan is a required 5-year strategic plan for community development block grant and home investment partnership funding. It includes identifying housing and community development needs. Once we identify them, we need to prioritize those needs since funding is limited. We establish the goal and its activities for funding based on priorities. And it is required also that we do a 5-year allocation, which we did at that time with the allocation of 2020. It's a simple math. We multiply the allocation by 5 years. So far, it's consistent. Our projection for the 3 years, based on what we received for the past 3 years, is consistent with our projection. Our annual plan, the city is a city plan of projected activities for the year based on the annual allocation received from HUD. Based on the formula, it's based on population, level of poverty. They have their own factors that they factor in the formula to calculate the allocation, and as allocated and approved by Congress for different housing programs. Actually, this item usually come to you in June, but they have a delay in doing the allocation this year. We only receive our allocation back in May 13. That's why you're having this item so late this year. So once we receive the allocation, what we do, the AAP, which is the annual action plan, lays out how the funds will be used. The uses of funding must be consistent with the 5-year consolidated plan. So whatever was not identified as a priority in the consolidated plan cannot pop up right now as a priority in the annual action plan. If it's the case, we will have to go back and do an amendment to the consolidated plan. It lays out also activities, project. Those activity and project that we are going to finance can be leveraged by private sector funding, state funding, and other local general funds investment. For this fiscal year, the city has received on the CDBG $768,251. On the home, we have received $347,037. Way before we get to this presentation, it is mandatory that we have the citizen participation. As such, first we have advertised within the Herald and the Daily Business Review, considered as local and county papers. We have 2 public workshop. I apologize, it's not meeting, it's workshop on the east side and on the west side back on May 11 and May 12 to inform the public of the funding that we receive and what we intend to do with the money. Then we conduct agency consultation with the government and private sector, as well as some city department, and some information came from the consolidated plan. Today, I'm here with you for the first public hearing that we are having on June 7. Follow this public hearing, we're gonna, based on your recommendation, this item will be presented to council on July 12, 2020. But before that, it is mandatory that right after your approval and recommendation to council, that this document be published, be made available to the public for the comments for a period of 30 days. So meaning, when I'm done here, beginning tomorrow, residents, all the stakeholders will be able to voice their opinion, and it's mandatory also that we reply to those comments, and they should be included as part of our annual action plan that we are forwarded to HUD. For the fiscal year 2020-2024, we have identified high needs and low needs. High needs, the city should use federal funds, the funds that we are talking about today from CDBG and home. For the low needs, HUD recommend that we use other fundings, such as local funding, county, maybe city funding to address those low needs. During the last consolidated plan that we approved, this is the order that the priorities show. We have rehabilitation of existing owner-occupied housing that came first, general public services that came second, homelessness prevention third, homeownership assistance, job creation, rental housing, and public facilities and infrastructure improvement. And what you're gonna see in the distribution, it will reflect exactly the needs based on the way they were prioritized. This one is a simple pie of the funding that we have. We have the CDBG funding, the home funding, and sometimes we have some recaptured funds. The recaptured funds usually, it's the funding that we recapture when people that we assist didn't stay in their home for the affordability period. At that point, they have to reimburse the city the portion that they didn't stay in the house during the affordability period. For this fiscal year, we didn't recapture any funding. Here you have the distribution for CDBG. We are entitled to 20% for our program administration. The bulk go to housing rehabilitation. That was number one, our top priority, 334,601. CDBG public services, this one is mandatory. We have to set aside this funding, but it does not supposed to exceed 15% of our allocation. CDBG elderly emergency repair, this is something that was identified by our residents where the elderly needed assistance. We had to create a special program for them where we can, it's in the form of a grant where we can assist them with some emergency. We have CDBG public facilities. We can do some small project in the parks. For instance, last year, we repaired the pump at the Thomas Sasso Pool. This year, we're working on something for the tot lots at the library. And finally, you have CDBG economic development that goes toward the small businesses, the micro enterprises. With the home funding, at this level, we only entitled of 10% program administration. There is a set aside, a mandatory set aside for Home Shodo, which is for development, construction, but not for profit organization, not to developers, but to not for profit developers working in the affordable housing field. On the first-time home buyer, we allocated $30,000. On the home single family, again, we got the bulk that goes to the single family owner rehabilitation. And then we don't have any money allocated for tenant-based rental assistance. And we're gonna explain why, because the next item that you're gonna see with me will come, we have a bulk of money that goes toward tenant-based rental assistance. So that's why we didn't use this funding from home for this one. Right after this meeting, like as I explained earlier, we will have a 30 days commenting period. It starts tomorrow and will end on July 7. Your recommendation and the public comments will be forwarded to council for approval on July 12. And those plans, this one and the following one that are coming your way, will be submitted to HUD by July 30, the latest by August 15. If we don't do so, we are losing the fundings. This concludes my presentation. If any question, I'm available.
Just one quick question to you. On the number of programs that we had, is this always to set them out? I noticed you did mention that the emergency repairs was an added program.
For the elderly?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. No, this is not a set aside. We administration determine the allocation.
Okay.
Usually what we do, the last memo approved by the manager, it was only at 6,000. We increased it at 9,000. So
Right.
basically, I can serve approximately 10 residents. And this emergency elderly to the elderly covered AC. It's hot. Sometimes their AC is broken. So we can go ahead and change their AC. Some of them got some issue with their windows. We can go and fix that. A ramp for someone who's disabled. We retrofit bathroom for some of them, but mostly emergency elderly. It's not really beautification. It has to address an emergency.
Okay, good. But more specific, if you had other programs that you wanted to add, or if there was a situation you cannot.
No, we cannot. When I say we cannot do it on the spot, but if it's something that really administration, the council, and you guys recommended, we will have to go back and amend our consolidated plan to make it as a priority.
Right.
And then we can fund this program.
Okay, all right, thank you. I just wanted to know the process there. Thank you. Okay, any quick questions before I open the public hearing? Okay, the public hearing on item PC 1742 is now open. Anyone wishing to address this item, please step forward. Give your name and address, please, for the record. Good evening.
Good evening. My name's Linda Harris. I own property in North Miami at Northeast 11th Avenue and 127th Street. My personal address is 603 Islands Boulevard, Hollandale Beach. I am here to just talk about the fact that in North Miami, the average new residential dwelling is 56 years old based on your commission FIU study. As a former guardian ad litem, I have a soft spot for kids aging out of foster care. I realize we, meaning we, because I'm a property owner here, we have a very vulnerable population in North Miami. Affordable housing is needed, and I'm very happy to see that Ms. Brazil talked about homelessness and the home dollars going to nonprofits. These are the people that prepare your coffee, they cut your hair, they teach your children, and the majority of them cannot live in North Miami. It's a beautiful city, it's a growing city, and I'd like to be part of the solution. I am presently building affordable housing in North Miami. I have land in North Miami. I'd like to continue a partnership with the city of North Miami. It's a wonderful city, and again, I have a soft spot, again, as a guardian ad litem and an auntie of 15 nieces and nephews, so I know how important our young people are. So I just wanted to add my 2 cents, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Anyone else wishing to address this item, please step forward. I see none. I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing. Public hearing for item 17-42 is now closed. Open for discussion with the Planning Commission. Ms. Lemur?
Nothing at this time.
Thank you. Mr. McDermott?
Nothing at this time.
Thank you. Mr. Bob?
Nothing at this time.
Dr. Medina? And Commissioner Reach?
No.
Thank you.
Chairman,
And,
question.
yes.
I'd like to move approval of the item.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion to approve by Mr. McDermott, seconded by Dr. Medina. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Item is approved. It will go before the City Council on, you said July 12th, correct?
Yeah.
All right. Second item on tonight's agenda is PC 1743. This is a resolution of the mayor and the City Council of the City of North Miami, Florida, amending the previously adopted fiscal year 2021-2022 annual action plan to provide for the special grant allocation of Home Investment Partnerships Program, American Rescue Plan, better known as Home ARP, ARP. These funds are being asked to be made available to the City of North Miami to provide homelessness assistance and supportive services to qualifying populations in the amount of $1,888,181. Again, that's $1,088,181,000 from the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development, better known as HUD. It's providing for an effective date and for all other purposes. May we have staff report, please?
Good evening again, Albert Bazil, Housing and Social Services Director. Here tonight, we came to you back in 2020 with CDBG-CV. That was the funding that we received under the CARE Act. President Biden, when he came into power, approved the $1.9 trillion in relief to continue to address the impact of the COVID-19 on the economy. But this time didn't come under CDBG. This one came under the Home Partnership Investment Program. For this one, it was a special allocation. It's a one-time allocation, but it's very limited. We cannot do much under it. It's restricted. And for this, we had to bring on board a consultant because there was some requirement that HUD requested. We needed to conduct consultation with stakeholders, people working into the homelessness field, people working with victims of domestic violence, and so forth. So there is a presentation I'm gonna introduce to you. I don't know if you're gonna be able to see him, but no, you're gonna hear him, not seeing him. Mr. Eric Chapman from Civitas LLC, who the city hired to work with us on getting this allocation plan ready for submittal to HUD, along with the fiscal year 2022-2023. Dunya?
Hi, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Ms. Brazil. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, sir, we can. State your name and address for the record, sir, if you could.
Yes, sir. This is Eric Chatham with Civitas. My address is 600 Salty Alley, Mount Pleasant, South Carolina.
Welcome, sir.
Thank you. And thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for having me this evening. As Ms. Brazil indicated, we have a brief presentation for you this evening summarizing the Home American Rescue Plan allocation plan. And Ms. Brazil is going to help me with this presentation here. As you said in your introduction, sir, that this is a special allocation through the American Rescue Plan. Nationally, there was over $5 billion provided for this program, with the primary goal of reducing homelessness and increasing housing stability across the nation. Again, North Miami has received a direct allocation of just over $1 million. And as an FYI, the county also received this allocation and has prepared a separate plan themselves. As the primary goal indicates, the purpose of these funds is to assist families that are currently experiencing homelessness, at risk of becoming homeless, or several special needs populations, including individuals maybe fleeing domestic violence or dating violence, victims of sexual assault, stalking, or perhaps human trafficking. And where we're providing assistance here, the primary goal of this program is, again, to prevent continuing homelessness or prevent homelessness in the first place. So these funds must serve those with the greatest risk of housing instability or the highest risk of becoming homeless. Veterans and families that include a veteran family member may also meet one of these criteria and be considered a vulnerable population. So our next few slides will go over eligible activities and eligible uses of these funds. There are four main categories of eligible activities. The first being affordable rental housing development. Second, non-congregant shelter or homeless shelters, development of those shelters. Tenant-based rental assistance, and supportive services and related activities, again, all for the special needs populations. So some details on the eligible rental housing development. These funds, similar to your annual allocation of home funds, can be used to acquire existing rental housing, construct new rental housing, or rehabilitate existing rental housing. This also includes converting non-residential structures into affordable rental housing. Eligible costs under this category are including both hard and soft costs related to these developments, assisting individuals that might be displaced through these efforts through relocation, as well as operating costs for potential rental programs, rental units. Again, all of these affordable housing units would have to be occupied by eligible population. The second category, non-congregate shelter. I'll first draw your attention to the bottom of the slide here to define what non-congregate shelter is for those that might not be familiar with this term. You're probably all familiar with what homeless shelters, the traditional structure of those shelters are. Of course, during the COVID pandemic, those shelters were not suitable. They were not safe conditions to prevent spread of COVID-19. And so non-congregate shelters provide private units, and in some cases they might be single rooms for temporary shelter for one of these eligible populations. These units or these type of developments would not require occupants to sign a long-term lease or any kind of occupancy agreement. And with this, eligible activities would include acquisition of structures that could be modified for this type of use, new construction, and rehabilitation similar to affordable housing development. Rehabilitation of existing structures. Common practice has been to use these funds to acquire motels or nursing homes, structures that are similarly developed for compatible use. Eligible costs here are also the acquisition, development, hard cost and soft cost, as well as replacement reserves. So setting aside funding at the beginning for costs that for repairs that will be necessary in the future. Some things to consider with this category. These funds are limited to the development of these non-congregate shelters and provide no funding for ongoing operations, which makes this very difficult to fund given our small, relatively small allocation of just over $1 million. Again, operating costs are not eligible from the home ARP or your annual home funds. The third category is the home ARP tenant-based rental assistance program. This is very similar to Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program, where the funds are provided to eligible population for rental assistance, which can include security deposits, utility payments, deposits as well. This type of program could be run directly by city staff or by eligible subrecipient nonprofit partners in your area. Unlike the normal annual allocation of home funds, where we have limitations on the amount of funding that can be provided for each household, this program allows for providing up to 100% of the rent and utility costs, again, for these qualifying populations. The final category of eligible activities is the supportive services. And we have three categories here that I'll share some examples momentarily. Supportive services for people currently experiencing homelessness, homelessness prevention services, and housing and counseling services. And that could be for those that are currently homeless or at risk of becoming homeless. Some things to consider here. This could be a standalone program, or it could be in combination with any of the other ARP activities. As you'll see momentarily, we're going to suggest that these might be supportive services in relation to a tenant-based rental assistance program. So the first two categories, homeless supportive services, you can see the column of potential service types that could be offered to those currently experiencing homelessness. I'll highlight a few. Housing search and counseling services, helping people find affordable housing so that they can move out of shelters or off the streets. Legal services, life training skills, mental health services, outreach services, and substance abuse treatment services, all much in need for this population frequently. On the homeless prevention side, on the right-hand side of your screen, case management, mediation between tenants and landlords to hopefully prevent evictions, assisting tenants with credit repair, working with landlords to identify affordable housing options, and then financial assistance costs for, again, for eligible populations. Those are just some of the examples in these categories. We've got one more slide on that housing counseling item. So housing and counseling services, again, can be provided to either those currently experiencing homelessness or at risk of becoming homeless. This can be, these funds can be used for staff salaries and overhead, for HUD certified housing counseling agencies specifically, developing housing counseling work plans for individual households, marketing and outreach of programs, handling intake, financial and housing affordability analysis, again, for individual households. Action plans to assist families developing a plan to become self-sufficient, and follow-up communication with program participants down the road to make sure they are still stably housed. So as Ms. Brazil mentioned in her introduction, this program, or the requirements for these funds, included very specific stakeholder outreach. And so we, either through staff consultation, surveys, or other communication with several local affordable housing organizations and homeless service providers, we have some feedback on the priorities, their suggestion for priorities on these funds. So the first slide here is identifying the highest priorities or highest needs for the qualifying population. Again, those that are homeless or at risk of becoming homeless. Very clearly, the two highest unmet needs are tenant-based rental assistance and just a sheer lack of affordable rental housing in the community. And then the next slide is specific to priorities within your community here in North Miami. Very clearly, again, rental assistance sticks out as the highest priority, and then the development of affordable housing. So those two responses definitely indicate both need for units and for assistance. So with that in mind, staff has developed the proposed budget here. We're suggesting that roughly 65% of the funds go to tenant-based rental assistance. Given, again, the small amount of funds relatively here, just over $1 million, acquiring property and developing affordable housing will take quite some time and would take significant additional funding to go with these home ARP funds. So we're suggesting that the bulk of the funds be provided for immediate release for tenant-based rental assistance and supportive services for those households. Again, 20% for supportive services, and then as the limitation, 15% for administration and planning efforts that the city will incur. At this time, we're happy to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. If you want to stay on the line, you may have some questions directed to you. You can hold with us for a few moments more.
Absolutely, yes, sir.
Thank you very much. Any questions to staff before I open public hearing? Any items? Ms. Blimmer?
Yeah, so I have a few questions. Number one, what constitutes as supportive services?
It's a list. It's divided into 3 categories.
Mm-hmm.
People who are already homeless, we provided some supportive service for them.
Specifically what?
Childcare, you're in the street, you need to have somewhere to put your baby for the days to receive food and so forth. We provide that. Employment assistance and job training, housing search and counseling services, legal services, workforce training, mental health services. There is a list that HUD provided that fall under the homeless services, people that are already in the street. Now, people who are at risk of becoming homeless, you're about to get evicted. So we offer the service landlord-tenant liaison, case management, mediation between you and the landlord to find, to get into an agreement so you can remain in your house and not get into the street. And then the last category will be the housing counseling, where you go, you sit down, they explore your option with you, what you can do, what you cannot do. So supportive services cover 3 categories. People who are already homeless,
Mm-hmm.
at risk of becoming homeless, and some people who just need counseling, how to go about their housing.
Okay, and one of the things that he mentioned is to ensure that people who are at risk of becoming homeless or have become homeless do not do so for a long period of time. So I wanted to know exactly what is going to be the process by which the individuals who are seeking these funds get them. And I'm specifically asking for that because right now when someone is homeless and you call a hotline, the first thing they want to do is put you in a bed. If there's not a bed available, for example, if you're actually sleeping in your car and there's not a bed available, they are not necessarily following up with the next step by putting you in a hotel. They tell you you have to wait for a bed. So that means that if I'm, homeless and I'm in my car, if it takes 2 days for me to actually get into a bed, I would actually spend those 2 days in the car. So I would specifically like to know what is going to be the process to ensure that people who are contacting and saying, I need help right now, that, we're not creating roadblocks by which we cannot, for example, put them in a hotel room for that night.
Now, as the program is designed, it's geared toward development of affordable housing. The only room that we really have is the tenant-based rental assistance. For instance, if you take the rental housing, the affordable housing rental, if you take the non-congregated shelter, you have to get those properties, build them, rehabilitate them, and make them available. We don't have that currently. This is something that the city can consider to get into it, to have those units available. Currently, the city doesn't have any vacant units. And this program does not allow us to put someone in a hotel room. However, someone who is in a shelter now, if we're gonna put this person through the supportive service with an organization that can assist them to get their home, even if they're not qualified. The city will become like a guarant, a sponsor. We will guarantee that we can put them in this unit for 1 year. And I think this program allow me to go all the way to 2 years. And one of the things that we advocate is not only put those people in those units for 1 year, but it's to give them the means to get back into their feet so they can go back to work. But we don't have, this program does not allow us to put someone in a room
So
for
there's
a
no
week.
immediate or emergency assistance?
No,
Okay.
no,
Thank you.
we don't have that.
The only services, I believe, would be the county can provide that, or they have to go through
As of today, we refer them to the homeless trust, to the county,
or the trust.
the trust
the
funds, to the
homeless
grant.
trust, and then if it is an emergency because of fire, whatever, the Red Cross is supposedly there to assist them, and
We
you
don't
know,
really refer them to Red
But I
Cross.
think what Ms. Blamur is saying that people may not know that that's the route that they need to take.
Exactly, and I think as a
And-
city, if we're gonna be providing assistance, we should be thinking of providing assistance for the issue that
For the
our
immediate-
people
the
are
immediate-
currently facing, and that's immediate eviction, where they're put out on the street and they absolutely have nowhere else to go.
No, but that's the reason that we put the bulk of the money toward tenant-based rental assistance and supportive services as well. The issue is when someone call my office and say that I'm in the street, now I need to have an organization where I can refer you, we can go, they can help you in the search. Because I don't have the staff, I don't have the I don't have the expertise as well to help this person get into the market, talk to the landlord to get you a unit. We will have to bring those organizations as supportive services that can assist those people within a week, 2 weeks, where they can go through the process and the city will foot the bill with this allocation.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Might be a good idea to have those organizations on speed dial in the future.
That's the reason we allocated the funding toward two major things. The urgency is the rental. People are in the street, but for us, it's not only putting them in the house for a year or for 2 years. We need to give them the mean while they're in those units to be able to get into their feet, get a trade, get some skills, get into the market, go to work. So once, because I cannot go beyond the 2 years. So after the 2 years, we don't want to have this person back in the street. That's the reason of the supportive services.
Anyone else have any comments? Dr. Medina?
Did I understood right that you don't? Thank you so much for being here. Did I understood right that you don't contact the American Red Cross in case of an
Usually
emergency?
the Red Cross intervene when we have a fire, but when I have those cases, people in the street homeless, we send them to the homeless trust to Miami-Dade County, not really the Red Cross.
Because that's what the Red Cross does. In case of fire or, damage because of natural causes, that's what they do.
My office, if it's fire, yes, my office will redirect you to the Red Cross, but usually for homeless assistance, we redirect them to the homeless trust or Miami-Dade County Public Housing.
Because just a piece of advice, the American Red Cross, which I worked for 10 years as a disaster service specialist, have a bunch of programs that can help you with the homeless, like a ton. And what we don't want them is to get into the system, either in the shelter, or once they get into the shelter system, it's very hard for them to come out of there. So, yeah, the Red Cross have allocations and money to help to prevent homelessness. So
Noted.
just a piece of advice, feel free to contact me. I have 10 years of experience on that.
We will do.
Thank you, Dr. Medina. Commissioner Reach?
I have actually two questions for you. We talked about mental illness earlier on the telephone call. What concerns me also is when I see the mentally ill out there, and when I walk down Biscayne Boulevard, I see them sleeping in front of Wells Fargo, or down there by San Souci, I see them behind Home Depot. And the last thing you want to do is become like San Francisco, where you have the homeless encamped all over the place. Do we have anything in place that, I don't know what legally, what can we do with these people, and how can we assist them to get that mental health? How can we get them off the street? I'll be walking up the boulevard one morning, and there's this one woman, I seen her out there for, oh gosh, maybe about a month. She'd be on the other side of the street, the county side of the street, then she'd come over to the North Miami side of the street, and she was cursing, and she has her little shopping cart and everything else. Do we have anything in place that can assist these people? I mean, I know we can Baker Act them if they become a danger to themselves or to the public, but it's really kind of tragic to reach out to them and say, hey, I guess the property owner, like at Wells Fargo, could say, look, please arrest these people, keep them off my property, or the shopping center, or Home Depot, but they're out there. Do we have anything in place in the city that can get them any kind of assistance?
Currently, we have a mental health program going on under CDBG-CV, that the one that we receive under the CARES Act, but it was more general, not specific to this population that you are talking about. And this is an option that this allocation offer. We can provide mental health services for people who are homeless. So basically, if we make the decision to serve those people, we need to have language in this RFP that we are going to put out there to recruit this mental health services, not geared toward head of household or student, but really toward people who live in the street. The way we have it right now, it's not the way it's designed. This program is still going on, but it was more during the pandemic when people were inside, going crazy, don't know what to do. So we supported the families, the kids out of school. That was the way that program was designed. But under this funding, mental health is still a supportive service that we can provide. If so is your recommendation, this is something we can put out there, because we're not gonna just put everything. We can allocate some funds toward mental health services geared toward those people, this population. But he has to be homeless, because this one, we are limited. It's the qualifying population. You need to be homeless, at risk of becoming homeless, victim of domestic violence. So it will fit clearly in what you are asking. We can devote some funding toward the mental health services under supportive services.
Thank you.
But currently what we have is not geared toward them, but we do have one program working with mental health services.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. McDermott?
When appropriate, I certainly would like to move this item, because this is the kind of money I wish we had had 10 times the funding, because of the really great need that we have in this community. And just this afternoon, and I was working and speaking with our city clerk, Vanessa Joseph, this afternoon, I received a call, and I've received several of them over a period of the last few months. This woman is on disability. She's about to be evicted. She really doesn't have the resources or knows where to turn. This is all new ground to her. So it became a real process of trying to find who, what, when, where, and why for a woman on disability about to be homeless. Where's she gonna go? What's she gonna do? And luckily, we made a connection through Catholic Charities here in Dade County, and they're gonna help her. But just working through the maze, as Albert knows, of all the various agencies, people who are, not used to dealing with agencies to begin with, and then trying to walk through all the services and get the services that they need is so badly needed, and it's a wonderful service. And I'm so happy that we have any money for that kind of those kind of services. And when appropriate, I'd like to make the motion to
If you could hold off on that, sir, Mr. Bob, I overlooked you for too long here. Do you have any comments, sir? I apologize.
No, it's fine. First, thank you for the presentation. It was very informative. I think the main question that I have as far as identifying these individuals that are in need of services. So once, you know, everything is allocated, is it a matter of, you know, simply those individuals in need coming to the city seeking the program? Is it something where we're, you know, actively kind of canvassing, kind of seeing those who might be in need, like as far as like the rollout?
No, as indicated in the presentation, this is a program that the city may choose to roll. For instance, the tenant-based rental assistance, or we can outsource it to a third party. However, we need to be careful. The program is open to homeless. There is this terminology when they refer to sponsor. Someone can be a sponsor and refer an individual to us. So we need to assess. We need to do outreach to get to those people. So it's not just you work, you know about the program. We need to put out there. We need to work with the continuum of care of Miami-Dade County, where they can refer people to us. And there is one thing we need to note in the tenant-based rental assistance, for instance. The program is portable. What does that mean? If I help you, you get a unit in 6th Avenue. If you choose not to stay in 6th Avenue, you go to Miami Shore. I cannot cut the service. You may choose to go to live wherever you want, as long as at first you were eligible and you still meet the requirement to get into it. So it encompasses a lot of stuff. It can be outreach, city outreach, referral from the continuum of care, referral from sponsors, and so forth. So it's not limited like as the city program, it's limited to North Miami residents. It's open to homeless.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. Now that we've had our discussion with you, I'm going to go ahead and open up the public hearing. Public hearing is now open. Anyone that would like to address this item, please step forward. Please step forward, and once again, give your name and address for the record.
Thank you so much. Once again, Linda Harris, address 603 Islands Boulevard, 1205 Hollandale Beach. I am very surprised that the recommendation for affordable housing development is $0. I understand the rental assistance, but once we have, and I know it's a complex problem, but I believe at the end of the day, once we have taken care of these unfortunate situations and we give them rental assistance, where do they go? You can't keep paying rent if your salary doesn't go up. Again, I'm just here to advocate for some additional funding for the development of affordable housing. It is not a dirty word. It is something that we need in North Miami. Again, I have land, I have conceptual drawings, I've had preliminary meetings, conversations with the city. I have the heart, I have the willing, and I have the experience. And I'm just surprised that it's $0 for affordable housing. It's needed. Yes, we need rental assistance, but after that, then what? The rents will continue going up. When you work with the city and you have something like home funds, you go into an agreement saying you must leave that rent at that amount. You cannot raise it, so therefore you keep families in that home without the fear of the rent being doubled 100%. So I think that should be considered, and I was just surprised to see it's $0, and I asked the commission to consider allocating some funds for development of affordable housing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else wishing to address this, please step forward. Good evening, and your name and address, please.
Good evening, Council. My name is Kathleen Kennedy. I live in two places. I live at, I have to get the address because, wait, hold on a second. 12409 North Bay Shore, right as you come into the entrance of this beautiful Keystone. And then I live in Bay Harbor Islands, and I have some of my government officials here who I I think are doing an amazing job. I have a solution to this lady. I think all this money that the Related Group is going to be putting into our beautiful Keystone should go into this homeless buildings. Put their money where, there. That's where the money needs to go, to build housing for the homeless here. What do you say, guys?
Okay.
That's where we should, we scratch your back, I scratch your back. I asked my council in Bay Harbor Islands to do the same thing. I have one developer right now who's going to go do something for us because we need help. And to have a developer come in here and destroy our quality of life while we have,
Ma'am,
excuse me,
Ma'am,
while-
you're out of order. Please stick to the
Oh,
topic.
I'm out of order?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, I'm sorry, I apologize. But I'm very, very sensitive to the homeless. I am a volunteer in my town. I don't get one red penny. I'm not for sale. I help with kids. I help with seniors. My mayor is here. He'll vouch for it. My city manager is here. He'll vouch for it. That's my passion. Seniors, homeless. We find solutions for our homeless. You just have to do your homework. Okay? And there is things to do. And I like what you said, Miss Council Person, I don't know your name, but Catholic Charities is a very good organization, and you can reach out to them, and they will help you.
Thank you very much.
So, no, I'm not finished, but I want to thank you for addressing the homeless and also, you didn't address the flooding in the Keystone,
Ma'am,
which is not in the
we're only
budget.
talking
Thank you.
about this one particular item. Thank you so much. Anyone else wishing to address the item, please step forward. Seeing none, hearing none, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing portion of the item. Public hearing is now closed. Any further discussion from the panel before we ask for a motion?
Right before we ask for a motion, I just wanted to go back to Ms. Bazil. In reference to her comment about affordable housing, was there an opportunity to put funding there, or it was just what happened there?
It was based on the needs, as indicated by Chairperson McDermott. The funding that we receive, it's a little change. So administration make the decision to put the bulk of the money. First, you saw the graph, you saw the pie where the needs that we have for tenant-based rental assistance. So if we have an urgent need, people are in need of housing now. So a development takes a minimum of 2 years to be built. Once they are built, now we need to qualify the people to put them into the household.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that we answer.
It was considered.
Okay, so that it's just based on current need right now.
On the needs and the allocation as well, because it's not that much money. I can tell you, I already assist people, not homeless, regular people asking for us to close to this amount since the beginning of the crisis, and it's becoming worse right now.
Thank you, Ms. Bazil.
Thank you. Any other comments? I'll go ahead and entertain a motion.
So moved.
Mr. McDermott has moved for approval of the item. Seconded by Mr. Each. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Albert.
Alberta, thank you so much.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you
Thank
very
you
much.
to those that spoke too. We appreciate your input. Next item on the agenda is PC 1744. This is an ordinance of the mayor and the city council of the city of North Miami, Florida, amending volume 1, goals, objectives, and policies of the city of North Miami 2036 comprehensive plan, specifically by amending the official 2036 future land use map to extend the boundary of the North Miami Transit Station Overlay District, better known as the MPT-SOD, eastward by 32 parcels of real property, approximately 12.23 acres in size, bound by Northeast 16th Avenue on the east, Northeast 127th Street to the north, and Northeast 124th Street to the south to encourage compact mixed-use, transit-oriented development in accordance with Section 163.3184, Sections 163.3187, Sections 166.041, parentheses C, close parentheses, 3 rather, and parentheses C, Florida Statutes 2021. In Article 3 entitled Development Review, Division 3, Section 3-302, Sections 3-1104 through 3-1107, Sections 3-1109, and Sections 3-1110 of the City of North Miami Code of Ordinances, Chapter 29, entitled Land Development Regulations. May we have staff report, please? It's just a quasi-judicial.
No, and I wanted to, Mr. Chair, just give you a quick key to going forward on what is and what isn't. So the land use map amendments are going to be legislative, not quasi-judicial.
All right.
The zoning map amendments will be quasi-judicial, and the plat is quasi-judicial.
All right, zoning and plat. All right.
Okay?
Thank
And I
you.
recommend 2 minutes comments
Yes.
for all items.
Yes, that is our standard, and that was my error before we opened the public hearing on all items. As a standard, 2 minutes for public input per speaker, just so that we know going forward. May we have staff report, please?
Good evening, Mr. Chair and commission members. For the record, Debbie Love, City Planner with the Community Planning and Development Department. The item before you is the result of a number of conversations staff has had. As you all know, Johnson & Wales campus closed. They had a large, very large area of the campus, was about 28 acres. And then they had an extension area where they had, at one point in their campus master plan, the idea of purchasing those and expanding their campus. So many years ago, it was zoned, it was designated on the future land use map as Community Facility University, which of course that is for the purpose of supporting university uses. It doesn't allow residential, it doesn't allow standalone office or retail or anything like that. It's just supportive. So it could have like a campus cafe or something like that, but generally speaking, it was very limited. As you know, they sold it, and they sold the properties off piecemeal. And so we met, as part of this conversation, staff hosted a public workshop at the Wildcat Center a few months ago. And we presented the idea of what it could potentially be rezoned as a planned development district. So then we took that, our idea to City Council during a presentation that staff made. And we were directed to push that idea aside and just extend the North Miami Transit Station Overlay District. It was very specific direction that we were given to what you see on the presentation, those areas there. There are other campus areas. The current transit station overlay is south of 124th, all the properties going south. And then the vast majority of the properties to the east are within the current North Miami Transit Station Overlay District. So what you have before you are 2 items, they're companion items. The first one you're going to hear is the amendment to the future land use map extending the transit station overlay district eastward. There are a number of properties in there. There are a couple of condos with multiple ownership. But essentially there are 32 parcels that comes to a little over 12 acres that now would be encompassed into the transit station overlay district. So that's what you have set before you, because at this point, those properties are going to remain dormant because they are, unless you're doing a university use like they did with Doral College when we came before you, They can't really do anything with the properties. They can fix them up, but they can't have residential, they can't have office, they can't really do anything. So unfortunately, the properties aren't going to be maintained if folks are not able to develop them and move them forward. And unfortunately, it was not sold to another university. It was sold to individual property owners, and there are multiple property owners now of the campus. So what staff is asking you to do is to consider a recommendation of approval to mayor and city council for this extension. It was what council had directed us. It lays out exactly how they wish it at this point. The remaining properties, they want to look at as we are working through the comprehensive plan update as to what the appropriate land use and zoning should be for those other areas of the campus. So what will happen is this is going to go to city council for first reading on their June 28th meeting. And then their second reading is going to be at the July 12th city council meeting. And as typical, when you are doing these things, it will become effective for the comprehensive plan for the land use map amendment. It becomes effective 31 days because you have to allow for an appeal period. But once that becomes effective, then the ordinance takes effect in 10 days. So with that, that is the end of staff's presentation. And I'm here to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay. Commission, what I want to do is if you have any questions to staff regarding what she just gave us, I want to go ahead and open up the public hearing to let the residents speak on this issue, and then we'll hold off on our comments until we hear others' input on this item. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and open up the public hearing. Public hearing is now open on this item PC 17-44. Anyone wishing to address this, please step forward. I see you. Good evening, Mr. Burns. You have 2 minutes, sir. Please let's get your name and address for the record.
Thank you. Kevin Burns, 2065 Alamanda Drive. When we created the University Overlay District, prior to that, it was multifamily, residential, commercial. All these zonings already were there. When I created the overlay district for the university, it was to make sure we knew what the university was doing, so we had a plan over the period of life that they were going to be there, because they were buying properties up left and right, and we never knew what was going on. So we created that overlay district. And one of the questions that come up was, what happens if the university ever leaves? Which we never thought was going to happen, but it has happened. And most people said, well, it would go back to being redeveloped. The university wouldn't exist, and you go back to some of the existing or whatever the current zoning will be at that time. Now that you have an existing approved overlay district, it makes sense, and I'm not involved in any of that, but it can't stay the way it is with the current overlay district. You have to amend it so that we can redevelop that property in that area. But again, prior to the university, it was multifamily, commercial area, so we're really not asking, or they're not asking for anything different than what was there before. Thank you. At least there won't be a trailer park.
Thank you, Mr. Burns. Anyone else wishing to address this, please step forward. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Stuart Kornblum, 12785 Maple Road, Keystone. Are we going to have a train station at this point? We know that, or we think we know that there's going to be one at 151st Street. Are we going to have one in this location?
Thank you, sir. I have no answer to that. We could direct that to staff after we hear the question we can bring up for you, sir. Any other people wanting to make a comment? None? Okay. Public hearing is now closed. And we're now open for discussion with the commission. I'll go ahead and direct that question that one of our residents had to staff. I know I haven't heard anything from Tri-Rail, which is a total mess, by the way, right now, or from Brightline as to whether or not that 125th Street area is ever going to be a train station, at least in my lifetime. If city has anything to share with me on this or share with the public, be glad to hear about it at this point, but I've heard nothing.
As you all know, Miami-Dade County makes the selections. They're the ones who are sponsoring this. They're the ones who are providing the funding. They are the ones coordinating with the federal government. We created, the county created a smart corridor which identified a number of transit stops. 125th was one of them. 151 was not. What was approved for consideration for funding are both locations. The city has expended a considerable amount of time and money preparing for the station to be at that location. It was thoroughly studied in the SMART corridor plan. 151st was not. At this point, we don't have any further update. We do know that the NEPA process, which is the federal, when you're using federal funds, and you're going to be using the Fed's tracks, you have to do what's called a NEPA. It's a environmental study to determine what environmental impacts any type of project when you're using funding, no matter what it is. And the NEPA was completed, and as we suspected, it would be a finding of no significant impact to the environmental. So at this point now, we're waiting to hear. They have made selections. We've had submissions. I've requested an update from the county, and that's where it stands.
So it's sort of like if we build it, they will come?
Yeah, well, we have 125th during the study. 125th had the highest ridership. They studied everything from land use, what we haven't set in place, what we've adopted, and we were already way ahead of many other communities in our plan. The one behind us was Aventura. Aventura, though, put the dollars in, so they were able to go ahead and move forward.
Well, that was Brightline, I believe, correct? Nothing to do with the...
It's a shared track. They're going to be using a shared track.
Right. Ma'am, please, no comments from the audience, please. May we have no comments? Thank you. Ma'am, please, no comments.
So at this point, that's the only thing we've heard from the county. We're waiting to hear back from them as to which location they are selecting.
Thank you.
They have entertained 5 locations.
Right. Any other questions from Commission? None? I'll entertain a motion.
I do have one.
Oh, I'm sorry. Dr. Medina, I believe Mr. Ichi did too.
Debbie, could you just reiterate the what composes of the transportation overlay district, the composition? We talked about 3 things: residential, retail, so forth and so on. Would you elaborate on that and the height that we could go with that, please?
Yes, sir. Pretty much in the transit station overlay. In the transportation overlay district, you're allowed anything that the underlying zoning district allows, plus anything that's allowed in the mixed use, which would be everything from retail to residential to hotels, restaurants.
Mm-hmm.
It is probably the most flexible. It allows up to 200 feet in height and 150 dwelling units per acre.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Medina?
So, when the train stations, the community outreach was done. I was there. It was on North Miami Beach, and the commissioner, Sally Heyman, was the one who took 151 and wanted to take 125. There was nobody from the city of North Miami there, none. It was only me, and that's it. And I give them a good fight as usual, but Sally Heyman is more powerful than me. So that's one. Two, did we inform the property owners of this change? All these houses that I see here in the map?
What you have is the notification went to all the folks in the 500-foot radius of the properties, and does not include the houses.
Debbie, your mic is, Debbie, they cannot, they can't hear you.
Sorry, my apologies. I keep turning it off, so I don't want to disturb you when you're talking.
Thank you.
This was done through the CRA. I can't speak to what notifications they did, but the typical notifications that would have been done, they're supposed to have sent them to the property owners that were subject to it, but it was an overlay. So, and it was done through before I came here, and it was hosted by the CRA.
And why the garage of,
I'm sorry, sir?
the garage that is excluded, all that garage of the building?
I'm having a hard time, my apologies, sir, I'm having a hard time hearing you, sir.
I see in the map that the whole garage of the building that they're rebuilding, and all of it is excluded from that, from the overlay. Why? You made like a deep and exclude the whole garage, which is a big chunk of property.
Right, so are you talking about what council has decided to include
Oh,
in
okay,
this
okay,
extension?
okay. So, I mean, if the council asks you to do that, you have to do that. Okay,
Yes,
I
sir.
understand.
Yes, sir.
So, so let's say that the train station never come, and the only thing that is holding my hope is that investors are coming and they're, betting that we're gonna get the train station. I don't see any train station coming, but that's me. Why, I understand that, I don't understand the reasoning on changing the zoning here, because what you mentioned here is that you're going to encourage the compact and mixed use and transit-oriented development. Yeah, but encouragement and developers are like water and oil, you can encourage it. We need to do something better than encourage. And I mean, if I know developers, and I think I do, they're gonna maximize and they're gonna go 20 stories, and there's nothing, once we change the zoning, the overlay zoning, and why it's gonna go all the way up there?
Right.
It's gonna be hard to walk from there to the train station. It's not just right there. So this is, I just don't understand the logic of it. It's just gonna make some people a lot of money. I don't see the city gaining anything by it. There is nothing that I see that they're gonna contribute to our sewage system. Nothing, at least that, but, so.
Well, as you.
I appreciate the work that was put on this, but I think it's premature, and in my opinion, a giveaway, and hope we don't play that.
Well, as you mentioned, you used my term, I say when you do these type of things, you encourage development. Our code has very I can't.
Go ahead, man.
Our code has very, 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 as you know, very specific standards for development. So how it's oriented, it does allow about 200 feet in height. So far, we're not seeing anybody coming in maximizing that so far in that transit station overlay district yet. But our code is very specific on the standards, and it's very specific also about concurrency and making sure that there's adequate sanitary sewer, there's adequate water, and the roads as well. So, as you know, if their utility impact study comes in with their conditional use permit. Everybody in here is going to need a conditional use permit because there's no underlying density. It's not like we're changing the underlying zoning to give them density. The only way they're gonna get that density is through that conditional use permit, where we put all of our requirements, our things that we want to see, where you all get to add additional conditions in your recommendation going before city council. But they're subject to very specific standards in our code for development, particularly when you use, when you're requesting a bonus units or the floating units. It even goes at a higher level than it does as a right development.
But as long as it's in the code, they can do whatever they want, as long as they're following the rules. So our rules are also very generous.
But they also are gonna give you the opportunity to put those conditions on there. And remember now, we're going through the comp plan process, so at
I
some
know.
point, you all get another chance to take a look at how you all may want to change that vision that was set by the last comp plan.
And this is why I don't understand the logic of accelerating, expediting this when the comp plan is coming and that can be addressed properly there. So, thank you so much for your work.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions, comments from the, Mr. Bob?
None at this time.
All right, so we've heard everyone's input on this. Go ahead and entertain a motion for either approval or denial.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion has been made to approve 17-44, seconded by Mr. McDermott. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Bob, I didn't hear you.
We need a roll call vote for this.
All right, we're going to go ahead and make a roll call vote on this. I apologize. Staff will go ahead and make a roll call vote. We'll begin with Commissioner Blammer.
No.
Commissioner Blammer votes no. Commissioner McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. McDermott votes yes. Dr. Medina?
No.
Dr. Medina votes no. Commissioner Each?
Yes.
Commissioner Each votes yes. Commissioner Bob?
Yes.
Commissioner Bob votes yes. Chair Charles Ernst votes yes. I believe that's 4-3, is that correct, staff? 4-3 for approval. 4-2. Not doing good with my math tonight. 4-2, motion is approved, and the ordinance will go forward to the City Council. Thank you very much. The next item we have, it's just making a note on the time here, staff, it's 8:30, so we're going to keep pushing forward here. This is PC 17-45, an ordinance of the mayor and the city council of the city of North Miami, amending chapter 29 of the city of North Miami Code of Ordinances entitled Land Development Regulations at Article 1 entitled General Provisions, specifically at section 1-106 entitled Official Zoning Map, to extend the boundary of the North Miami Transit Station Overlay District, better known as MTSOD, eastward by 32 parcels of real property, approximately 12.23 acres in size, bounded by Northeast 16th Avenue of the East and Northeast 127th Street to the north and Northeast 124th Street to the south, to encourage compact, mixed-use, transit-oriented development in accordance with section 166.041, parentheses 3, parentheses C, Florida Statutes 2021, and sections 3-1002, 3-1003, 3-1005 through 3-1007, and section 3-302 of the City of North Miami North Miami Code of Ordinances, chapter 29, entitled Land Development Regulations, declaring this zoning map amendment to be consistent with the city comprehensive plan, further authorizing the city manager to do all things necessary to effectuate the zoning map amendment, providing for repeal, conflicts, severability, codification, and for an effective date. May we have staff?
Mr. Chair, so this is quasi-judicial. We require disclosures of any communications that the planning commissioners have had with members of the public or the applicant. which would be the city, and swearing in of staff and persons who intend to speak to the planning commission.
Okay, first item then will be to ask the commission members if anyone has had any contact with the public or any discussions on this item prior to tonight's meeting.
With staff.
Or with staff.
Other than.
Staff I have not, other than staff, yes, of course. Other than staff, any comments? None?
I think
Very good.
2 or 3 months ago, I was talking to a gentleman by the name of Mario Border. I think he might own property over there. I don't recall, it wasn't.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, at this time then, Madam Secretary, can you go ahead and swear in those that wish to speak? Anyone wishing to speak on this item must stand and be sworn in to address the public, otherwise you will not be able to address this item. So again, anyone wishing to speak on item 17-46,
45.
I'm sorry.
45,
That's,
1745.
I'm ahead of myself. That will be item 1745. Anyone wishing to speak on this? This is the map overlay ordinance. And it was just read into record.
Okay. Do you solemnly swear to or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
And I see one hand in the back. Is that correct, sir? You're swearing in to speak on this item? Okay, so that's only one person I see that will be speaking on this item. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Staff report, please.
Thank you, sir. Again, for the record, Debbie Love, City Planner, Community Planning and Development. This is the companion item. This would be the implementing zoning map and LDR text amendment. I'm sorry. The zoning map amendment for the extension of the overlay district. As you can see, it's the same location, but the current zoning is PU, public use. And again, that public use is very limited as to what can be placed on a public use parcel without an overlay that allows residential. It's focused on things like, again, it has to comport with the land use designation, so it can't be just any community facility. It has to be associated with the support for the university. So again, as I said, that was, previously, it's 32 parcels, a little over 12 acres. This would change the map that goes along with the future land use map amendment I spoke to you all earlier. Again, this is a companion item, so they travel together. City Council, June 28th for first reading, second reading, July 12th. And then once the future land use map item becomes effective on the 31st day, the zoning map will become effective as well. And that is the end of staff's presentation.
Thank you very much. Any questions from staff on the map or from the commission on the map to staff? Hearing none, I'm going to go ahead and open up the public hearing. The public hearing is now open. Anyone wishing to address, I believe we have one gentleman that was sworn in to address this ordinance 17-45. Good evening, sir.
My name is Hector Rivera.
Okay, wait till you get up to the microphone so we can hear you. Go ahead, sir. Good evening.
Hector Rivera. I'm living Keystone Point, Bayshore Drive. Basically on this issue, I think that the current ordinance that governs it is appropriate. I don't think that there's any merit to change that. I know that this is joining the project to support whatever other changes in the future that they wish to build. I just think is also premature at this point to suggest any changes to the current zoning because there's no project to support it to begin with. Why are we going to change something to attract something in the future? It makes no sense. this plan was done at one point in time in which a whole study determined what was the best use for the area. Anyone voting to change something towards, you know, nothing in front of you, you know, has to question their senses. You know, if you're going, would anybody walk blind into a room? What are we suggesting here? So I think that this commission should avoid from pushing forward any envelope that is not consistent, concise, and of substance. This thing, throwing it in the ether, doesn't work. It hasn't worked in the past, will never work in the future. So I believe that this zoning should not be allowed at all, in the sense of the change, until we have something that is proposed, solid, and concrete. I would like to mention as a reference that Keystone Point had 30 years ago a
30
study.
seconds to wrap up, thank you.
What?
30 seconds to wrap up.
Okay, well, as a community, they did a huge study on the zoning and the appropriate, and this is one thing, they're trying to put a 184-story building on the corner there, and it doesn't go with the zoning.
All right, sir, thank you. Just, again, thank you for your comment. All right, at this point, public hearing is now closed. Open for discussion with the commission. Ms. Fulmer. Regarding the map.
So I wanted to know if we're going to vote on this first before we go into the second one? How are we doing
This
this?
is the second one. This is the second, this is the second item. This is the zoning map.
Okay.
Yeah, we're voting to accept it. The map had to come as a separate, the staff, if you could point that out again, explain one more time, the fact that we had the issue of the zoning map has to be changed because of the fact that we just addressed the ordinance prior to this that has to have a map reflect what we're talking about. Is that correct?
That is correct, sir. If you had denied the first item, you would not be hearing the second item. But you passed the first item, so now this is the zoning map that will implement that future land use map change.
Thank you very much.
And, Mr. Chair,
Any other-
there is a consistency requirement that to the extent the land use plan provides for a certain kind of development or intensity of development, the zoning map is supposed to
reflect.
follow along that. There
Right.
is a timing question, not as was presented by the gentleman who appeared from the public,
Right, yeah.
but as staff presented, there is opportunity, and this opens the area up for opportunity to encourage cohesive development rather than a piecemeal development.
Thank you, Counselor. Any other comments?
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
A little history about that neighborhood. I've been there about 50 years now. And originally, where the university is, that was North Miami General Hospital. And down the street was a bowling alley. And that bowling alley sat vacant for about 20 years, 25 years. Actually, I shouldn't say that long. Then Johnson & Wales came in and they purchased the property. And right now, it's all public use. So as you were saying, Counselor, you can't do anything with it. If you bought an apartment building over there, you can't remodel it, you can't build on it, you can't do anything with it. And this just gives the developer the flexibility to do something with it that meets our code. So that's all I have to say on it.
Thank you.
And I remember that bowling alley sitting vacant for years, and that started to pull the whole neighborhood down, just pulled it down. And then the old hospital just pulled the whole neighborhood down. And we don't want that to happen again with these properties sitting there, you know.
Thank you, Mr. Each. Dr. Medina?
again, this is premature. There is no need to change. This is an overlay extension of the train. A train that may not come, which we don't have the money to build the station. This is premature. This is a giveaway. So why we're giving without getting anything for our residents? This is doesn't make any sense. This is like throwing things on ether, you know, and wishing for the best. Encourage. I'm going to encourage people to do something. No.
Thank you, Dr. Medina. Mr. Bob, any comment?
Not at this time.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chair, can I comment on that, and staff can correct me if I'm wrong? So regardless of whether the train station comes, this is setting a development pattern that provides for an intensification of development, which, you know, if it attracts developers, is something that North Miami needs. There is clearly the need for incentives to encourage and invite developers to come to North Miami. So whether there's a train station there or not, the increase in development intensity and the aggregation of those in a district is something that would invite new development. And so I think staff's position would be that it's not premature.
So I strongly disagree with the opinion of the councilor. Developers are reigning in North Miami. We don't need to encourage anybody. What we need is to keep them away until we make proper plan.
Thank you, Mr. Medina. Please
I
hold
will-
your applause. No
So-
comments or applause, please. Thank you. Ms. Bloomer.
And so to Commissioner Medina's point, if there is a vision and you actually have identified what you want to see there, and then you start making the changes to actually bring about what you are envisioning, then it makes sense. But if you have not identified a plan, and currently right now, everyone was waiting for the train, which we have all accepted may not come, why not actually put together a comprehensive plan to say this is what you want to see, right? And then make the changes and everybody would understand why you're making the changes. And I think that we understand staff has a responsibility to think ahead and we welcome that, but where's the plan?
You actually adopted, the city actually adopted a mobility hub and strategic transit-oriented development plan. Right before I came here, it's probably about 5-6 years ago, and this was a community, lots of community workshops, lots of community meetings. There's a plan. That plan identifies catalyst projects. It identifies, it actually had a more expanded area than we've initially implemented. So the area that was proposed actually scooted and created various hubs throughout this side of the city. So you do have a plan. That's where the height, that's where the density came from. It's from that plan. It actually has, it's a book about yay thick, and I believe that Ms. Thomas provided you all, or should have provided you all, the executive summary of that plan, because we've talked about it before. And in that executive summary, it tells you the area, it tells you the catalyst projects, it describes what type of development, it prescribed the 200-foot height, it prescribed the 150 dwelling units per acre. It actually has projects that are now being looked at, you know, for like a P3 project. It's actually identified various catalyst projects. So this does implement that mobility hub plan that was adopted a number of years ago.
I think it would have been better received if that was part of the presentation. You know, that's just my opinion. If you're saying, okay, we're considering a train and everybody's looking for a train and we have now accepted that it may not come and then we're making changes, then that should have been put together with the presentation. 5 years ago, this is what was being considered. these are the possibilities. If the train does not come, this is what we're gonna be looking at.
Thank you for that notation. I did it with that when you all adopted the North Miami Transit Station Overlay District. There was a lot of discussion about that, so my apologies. As new folks on the commission, I should have pointed that out. So my apologies for that. But yes, that is a very detailed plan, and we follow it. All developments that come in, we actually look at that. We look at the comp plan, we look at a downtown and major quarters master plan, we look at this plan. And that plan, by the way, it says mobility hub. It doesn't really say train station, because it's anticipated that there's an alternative, and as Mr. Howell pointed out, it's not just focused on having this type of density and intensity based on a train station, whether the train station comes or not. It's creating mobility, it's creating transit-oriented development, it's creating compact, walkable areas of the city, and that was the whole purpose of that, that master plan. Is, again, it's not focused on the train station. It's great, it would be supportive for the train station, but we weren't sure when that situation was going to come out, so they did not just base everything on a train station. There's an alternative in there as to what happens if you don't get a station in that area. Then it becomes very walkable, very connected area of the city.
Thank you.
I would like to
Sir,
opportunity
sir, the public hearing's closed. You had your one time. There's no rebuttal,
It's
sir.
no rebuttal, it's a comment on.
No, there's no comment, the public comment, the public comment.
I think the city should
Sir,
fight
sir,
to keep the train
may we-
station here.
sir, you need to sit down. Thank you so much. Thank you for your earlier comments, but you only had one chance to make your presentation.
This is the viable place to have a train station, we should hold on to.
Sir, thank you. All right, let's move on, please. Mr. McDermott, you have the question.
Debbie, as we move into the new comprehensive plan,
Sure.
how could that change what we are about to do tonight?
Say that one more time, sir. The last part of your question.
All right. In the new comprehensive plan, can you hear me?
I'm just having a hard time hearing tonight. My
Okay,
apologies.
all right. In the new comprehensive plan that to what degree could that modify height and density of what we are currently doing tonight?
Well, if the community, when these items are there, they're sitting there, and as we go through the public workshops and the public input, if the community says, hey, we'd like to revisit that, again, we'd take the community input, but ultimate decision makers have to be the council. So they adopted the Mobility Hub Master Plan. And so to change that is certainly not out of the realm of possibility.
Mhm.
And whatever the community is looking for a new vision, that's something that would be presented to City Council. But a handful of folks who may have one opinion versus a handful of folks who may have another
Mhm.
opinion, we'll be taking all of that input and sharing it with council as we are starting to produce some of these policies, talking about density, talking about height, talking about all the things that affect our vision for the next 7 years. That will be a part of that, and then ultimately, City Council will be making the final decision.
And I do encourage the city, not just planning staff, but the entire city, all the different departments that are involved with this comprehensive plan, to reach out to the community. We need to have a better way of getting people involved with these meetings that will be presented to the public. And we encourage everyone that's here tonight to make sure that you do get the message that these meetings are going to take place, and that to share your input with us, to let us know. So that's the only way that we're going to always make sure that the right things are going to be done, is in these sessions that are planned by the city, in order to get the input from the residents and, you know, correct mistakes that might have been made, or to improve mistakes, or not improve mistakes, but improve certain elements of that plan to where everyone is satisfied with what we have planned for the future.
But we'll be rolling out, sir, a very different way of taking public input. It's not just going to be at workshops, because not everyone can attend workshops, but there'll be a very robust interactive website that we're going to be announcing through constant contact to the community, and encouraging folks to sign up to get notifications, and then we're going to be doing events that actually go out to the community. We're trying
And that's what we're trying to encourage.
Yes,
I know this panel wants to see that.
Yes.
I mean,
So
we're pretty
that's
unanimous.
And so
about
instead of
even-
a bunch of little workshops, it'll be, let's go out where people are already gathering, let's talk to folks, let's have a really robust website that's interactive, that
Right.
shares information, where people can comment, and we're gonna be rolling that out real soon.
All right, thank you. Any other comments?
Yeah, I just need to clarify something, if you allow me.
Yes, sir, go ahead, sir.
So, the people who bought who bought the properties, they know they were zoned for public use. So they gambled that we were gonna change the zoning. But it's a gamble, and they need to understand that. I gamble, sometimes I win, sometimes I don't. That's one. Two, once we change the overlay, as long as they're following the rules and regulations, they can build 20 stories, yes or no? It's very simple.
Well, it depends upon where they're located, because there's transitional standards if you happen to be located next to single-family homes. That may, depending upon your property, may require you to provide a lower or a bigger setback, and sometimes they can't do a bigger setback. So then they'll reduce the height of buildings down to meet those transitional standards that the code requires. But if they have a large enough property, yes.
So it's a giveaway at the end, that's what it is. Okay.
All right, let's go ahead. I'm going to entertain, do we have a motion for approval or
I
denial?
make a motion that we approve.
Mr. Each moves for approval. Do we have a second?
Yeah, I'll second.
And Mr. McDermott seconds the motion. This will be a roll call vote again. Ms. Blumer?
No.
Ms. Blumer votes no. Mr. Bob?
Yes.
Mr. Bob votes yes. Mr. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. McDermott votes yes. Commissioner Each?
I'm sorry? You call me or
Yes.
Dr. Medina?
Yes, Commissioner Each?
Yes.
Commissioner Each is yes. Commissioner Medina?
No.
Dr. Medina, no. Commissioner Ernst, yes. So again, it's 4-2 for approval. Motion is approved, 4-2. It's 9 o'clock. I think we can go ahead and continue without a break. Is anyone needing a break, or if we can move to the next item?
We'll take a break.
One of
Yep.
Okay.
10 minutes?
All right,
So
we're going to
Mr.
take a, can we,
If
yes, ma'am.
If we may I make a recommendation that we at least get through the next item
Okay.
before you take a break?
All right. Okay, we're going to go ahead and take the next item. We're up to item number 5, is that correct?
I'm sorry, sir?
That's item number 5 of 1746,
Yes, sir.
correct? Thank you. Losing track, and I have pages that are printed on front and back, which makes it a little difficult to follow. Okay, so the next item up is 17-46, a resolution of the mayor and the city council of the city of North Miami, Florida, approving a tentative plat application submitted by 135 Memorial LLC, entitled Tentative Plat of Delmas Homes for the parcels generally located south of Citadel Plaza, which is 3400 Northeast 3rd Court, west of 13330 and 13350 Northeast 3rd Court, south of 3310 Northeast Third Court, and north of 13270 Northeast Third Court, and specifically identify with Miami-Dade folio numbers 06-2230-000-0121 and 06-2230 and 000-0122 in accordance with Article 3, Division 8, Section 3-802 of the City of North Miami Code of Ordinances and Chapter 28, Sections 28-7, parentheses B, of the Miami-Dade County Code of Ordinance, providing for an effective date and for all other purposes. Again, this is a quasi-judicial item,
Yes, sir.
and at this point, I'll ask the secretary to swear in anyone who would like to address this item. 17:45, I see hands. Please stand. Okay, I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
Do
6,
you
7, 8.
solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And would do commission disclosures if there
Yes. And the next issue we need to have stated, anyone who's had any discussion on this item, either with staff or with the general public,
Yes,
please let us know.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I receive several phone calls in opposition and support both.
Anyone else?
Anyone else?
Okay,
None?
very good.
Okay.
Again, for the record, Debbie Love, City Planner, Community Planning and Development. The item before you is the first stage in the plating process. Miami-Dade County has very specific requirements regarding plating of properties. They require all projects that are unplatted to become platted. So the first step is a tentative plat, which is what you have before you tonight. It's up as high as it's going to go. And so what we have is a tentative plat for what is called Delmas Homes. I'm missing a slide. Oh, I'm going backwards. That would help if I knew. Operator error. Okay, so as I said, this is part one. This has nothing to do with entitlements. It simply is to combine the two parcels together. They're both vacant currently, and have had some clearing previously of non-protected tree species. That's why you have that convoluted description, because they don't have addresses for them. But as you can see, the first parcel, the large parcel, is directly behind Citadel Plaza on Northeast 135th Street. And then the second parcel is about 2-3 properties in. Again, this is part one of what is required by Miami-Dade County for any type of development that is on unplatted properties, or if they have to be replatted. In this case, they're unplatted, and they're going to be combined into one parcel of land. They do have to tell us what they anticipate doing with the property, and they are proposing 24 two-story townhomes. The townhomes would, on the natural, be placed on the larger property, and the smaller property area is not large enough. That area is not large enough to do townhomes on and of itself. As you noted, as you saw in the staff report, they've met all the requirements of the LDRs and Miami-Dade County plating requirements. It has gone through all of the staff approvals. The only concern staff has had with this particular one is the ingress-egress. It's not required as part of the tentative plat, but as part of the final plat. They have to show us how they plan to enter and exit the property. And at this point, our concern is going out onto Northeast Third Court. Between the activities at Citadel Plaza, the shopping center, they're going to be adding, it's not a Wendy's, that change is now going to be, I believe, an auto parts store at the corner there at Third Court on 135th. And our issue as staff has been the concern about the traffic, the capacity of Third Court to be able to handle additional traffic onto that. And so one of the things that we have talked with the applicant in the past, as this has been a little while, this has been going on a little while, is to look at potential alternatives for coming out onto Northeast Third Court if that's possible. At the time this was originally submitted a while back, it was owned, the storage, the lot there where the storage facility is going on, which is right next door to this, to the west. They were both, the parcels were owned by the same property owners. And at this time, in checking the property appraiser record, ownership has changed since that time, because our recommendation was going to be that they focus the development on the larger parcel, away from the single-family homes, and exit and entry through the storage, what is the storage facility site, out onto 135th. And that may still be a possibility, don't know. I don't own the properties, the applicant is here and they can answer any questions you might have. But at this time, it appears that that ownership issue, they could either, the only other option would be an easement, that they could obtain an easement from another property owner to move forward with this. But what you'll see from us is that the next piece of this, after today, is going to go to City Council. Again, that July 12th meeting is their last one before they go on break, and they wanted to make sure, our city administration wanted to make sure that you heard this today and that it goes before City Council on their July 12th. What happens is then the applicant, the city has to send that resolution approving the tentative plat to the Miami-Dade County Plating and Traffic Committee. And they'll make comments on it, and then the applicant has to respond to any comments from Miami-Dade County. And they provide a report, like a little mini report of whatever conditions that the county wants placed on it. And then they'll come back and apply for a final plat application. It's a separate application. And that final plat only goes to the City Council. It doesn't come back to you. The tentative plat does. Final plat has been approved by Miami-Dade County, comes back to City Council, and what we have to do before it goes to City Council is we have to look at what Miami-Dade County is requiring and make sure that they've addressed each one of those items on that final plat before it goes to City Council. Once that occurs, and again, it has to get recorded. Again, what you have tonight has nothing to do with entitlements. To do 24 units there, they will need to come back and apply for a conditional use permit because they do have an as-of-right number, and they're requesting they would need to request additional units to meet that 24 units. So it will go through a conditional use permit application for entitlements, which of course comes to you all. It's public hearing. That conditional use permit for the entitlements will then go to City Council. Then they have to go to the Development Review Committee, assuming City Council approves it, and then come back to City Council for site plan approval. So there's lots of opportunities, and as we do, we try to, when applicant applies for a conditional use permit, before they do that, they have to have a pre-application meeting with us. And at the pre-application meeting, we tell them, look, you need to meet with the neighbors. You need to talk with the neighbors. You need to then tell us what the neighbors said and how you've addressed any of the residents' concerns. One of the biggest concerns that we're hearing now is a lot about the flooding on Third Court. And I'm sure there are folks here in the public that want to share other concerns that they may have had, but we are cognizant of the flooding issues on Third Court. And they have a big dip, as you know, when you first come in there, there's kind of a good little dip in that road there. What will happen with this development, once they happen, assuming this gets approved and we go through all of that, they're going to have to do a enhanced stormwater retention on the property. So they'll have to not just retain the minimum standard, but they'll have to retain at least 10% more stormwater on their own property. And they have to revegetate that, and that between the landscaping and the stormwater, it will help protect the properties from flooding going off of the property. It may not repair the road or elevate the road. It would not necessarily attain that. But again, that is something that is the responsibility of the city to take a look at the flooding that's on that roadway. And I know that they are working on updating their stormwater master plan. So that will also be coming to the public from Public Works as well. And with that, that is the end of staff's presentation and a little background, because you have my staff report. But the applicant's agent here, Jerry Proctor, is here. And Mr. Proctor does not have a presentation. However, I'm sure he would like to make a few comments.
Mr. Proctor, may we have your name and address for the record, please?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Jerry Proctor, attorney, 7600 Red Road, representing the applicant in this matter. It's a pleasure to be here and to see everyone again. I am joined tonight by Paul Tremblay, who is part of the project team on this matter. Mr. Chairman, we have, as Ms. Love indicated, complied with the requirements at this early development point or tentative plat, and we will ask at the conclusion for your support. I want to raise a few items, some of which Ms. Love mentioned, and try to answer as many questions even before they're asked, including some of the issues that she raised. This property is about 1.5 acres. It is zoned R4, which is low to medium density residential. The entire residential area around us, including along Northeast 3rd Court, is also zoned R4. The property, as Ms. Love indicated to you earlier, and it's also on page 2 of your recommendation, has a commercial area to the north, a shopping center anchored by Family Dollar. It has a soon-to-be developed mini warehouse development to the northwest, also zoned C1, a daycare center to the west along Memorial Highway, and the residences along 3rd Court, also zoned R4, same as we are zoned. We do not have common ownership of this property with any of the other commercial property. We do not have the same zoning as the commercial property. Our only means of access, other than emergency access for fire and police, is on 3rd Court. And that will be our primary and really sole point of access for this development. I want to assure the members of the commission and the community that, first of all, what we are proposing to develop is very low in intensity. It's a maximum of 24 two-story townhouses. This zoning district, R4, would permit not only townhouses, but apartments, college dormitory housing, child care centers, nursing homes, hospitals. That's not what we're going to be moving forward and proposing, both through this plat and through the applications that Ms. Love mentioned. We are proposing 24 townhouses. The area along 3rd Court, the notch, if you will, that will provide our only means of access, will not have residential units within that notched area that abuts residences to the north and to the south and to the east. That area will be accessed. It may contain certain amenities like bike racks. It may contain guest parking for our development. It will not contain units. The units, and I know this is a little bit afar from the purpose of a plat, but I think it's important. The units will be back at the back end, as Ms. Love indicated, well spaced from the community. They will really be closer to the commercial part of the community, closer to the shopping center to the north, closer to the mini warehouse area to the northwest. We understand staff's concern regarding ingress egress. We would be pleased as we move along in the process, both in the conditional use and the continuation of the plat, to present any necessary traffic analysis. I can tell you this, we have already conducted a trip generation analysis just in the last couple of days. And what this development will generate in terms of traffic is very minimal. During the morning peak hours, we'll generate 1 car every 5 minutes. And during the evening peak hour, 1 car every 3.5 minutes. That's not 1 car coming and 1 car going, that's 1 car total in those time periods. Again, this is a residential development. We have heard discussion earlier and have made note in your regulations that your code really encourages residential development, encourages new units to supplement the city's housing stock. And that's all we plan to develop here. We're not planning to develop other uses, including the ones I mentioned. A lot of those uses would have a rush hour in terms of workers coming in and out, daycare centers, et cetera. That's not what we're going to have here. Now, having said that, we're pleased to discuss this matter going forward with the community. We have already begun that outreach. We've spoken to the extent we've been allowed to speak to the abutting neighbors. I don't think we have spoken to everyone in the community, but we will press forward and we will have community meetings, and we will have a lot of time to do that because both the plat and the conditional use will take many, many more months from now. It will go well into the fall months of this year and perhaps even longer. So we're prepared to have those discussions, to share what we have found already in terms of traffic impact, and to discuss the issue of drainage, which I know is an important issue. We're aware of the importance of that issue, and we're prepared to discuss that with staff, to engage our professionals to look at it. I think, again, it will help in terms of the third court impact that we're not going to have any units in that entire area going back for a couple 100 feet off of third court. Again, we're going to have access and ancillary facilities such as bike racks and guest parking. This application complies with not only your land development code, but your comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan, just like the R4 in the zoning code, talks about transitional uses between commercial and residential, especially single family. A townhouse is a perfect complement, we believe, for that transition. And that language is presented in the future land use element as well as in the land development code. With that, Mr. Chairman, I reserve some time for rebuttal. We're happy to answer any questions, and we ask for your support and pledge to come back to you again with our future applications and to continue working with the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Porter. What I'll do, if we can hold off with comments or questions from the commission, I will go ahead and open up the public hearing, and that way Mr. Porter will also have a chance to do a rebuttal from any of the comments that he does get from our audience. Now, bear in mind, those of you that were sworn in are the only ones that are allowed to come up and make a comment on this, since this is a quasi-judicial item. So the floor is now open to those who swore in that would like to comment on this item. Sir? Good evening. State your name. And
Good
address.
evening. My name is Victor Vigano. I reside on 385 Northeast 131st Street, North Miami. So obviously, I'm not happy with the developers. It's not the first time. I'm going to read something I just put together. This is not the first time we had to contrast unsavory development in our area. Once before, we were here trying to stop the placing of a fast food in our quiet area, the Wendy's that now it's not coming. It is my understanding the street and where the developer is coming was previously zoned under the county as a duplex area. It then became R4 when the area incorporated in North Miami, a more intensive zoning. I say massive exactly as the development is advertised on the internet by a company called Apex Capital Realty, a massive assemblage. Now, I read the developers are even seeking to further change the zoning, expanding it from the current R4 to an R6, and increasing the number of units that are allowed to be built on it. Residents I spoke to, some of which are here tonight, are in unison against both the access on Third Court, which will impact our street, and the rezoning. This wouldn't be a problem if the developer would just be happy with an R4 and use his land without accessing the Third Court, but obviously he desires to make some extra money and wants to change the rules impacting the residents. I'm against it. I want to hear our other residents. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chair.
Yes,
before we go any
staff.
further, I just want to make a clarification. They are not requesting to change the zoning.
Okay.
It's still R4.
Right.
So what they will be doing is the base density allows them a certain number of units, and they will be requesting, I can't remember off the top of my head, but I think they will need 6 additional dwelling units, 6 to 9 additional dwelling units to meet the 24. Through the conditional use permit, they would be requesting additional 6 to 9 dwelling units to accommodate that development. It's not changing the zoning. So I just wanted to make that point clarification. Excuse me, sir? Which needs a lot of public hearings through the conditional use permit
Right.
process, as you know, city council.
Right. Yes, so to make it clear to everyone, before you even come up now, this is already zoned R4, stays that way. Everyone understands that, correct? All right. Good evening.
Hi.
May I have your name and address, please? for the
Ashley
record?
Miranda, 13205 Northeast 3rd Court. So this directly impacts me. So I purchased my home back in 2019, and the reason why I purchased it in that area was because it was very quiet. So we go ahead and have all these townhouses that's nearly 50 cars. The street is already very narrow, and people are personally driving on my driveway just to get by because it's so narrow. So whenever there's flooding, which is a huge issue, they're just gonna continue to mess up my personal home, and I'm not okay with it. So and I live on the south side, closer to 131st Street. So that's not directly right next to me, but it still impacts me in a huge way because we have flooding in the north side of Northeast 3rd Court. So what are we gonna do when all these cars are stuck and then we can't even get into our homes. That's all I have to say.
Thank you very much. Good evening, sir. Thank you
Good
for coming in,
evening.
and your name and address, please.
My name is Danny Nimorin. My address is 1301 Northeast 200 Terrace. I own a duplex on 13341, 13145 Northeast 3rd Court. I just bought this property. I invested so much money fixing this property with a lien and everything, and with a big fight with the city of North Miami. Finally, I get that thing done. Just like few, it took me almost 2 years to get that duplex, under control. And everybody knows that 3rd Court is a lake. We have a problem with drain, with a slope from 135th and a slope 131st. So it becomes just like a drain. All the water just sit on my property. You all know that Saturday, with the problem we have Saturday, with the new, they don't even start the project. Or almost all the cars flooded, and the water get inside the property from back and from the yard and the front in the front of the property because of this project that has not even started. 3rd Court is too small. It doesn't have the infrastructure to support such a big project. We don't even have the road yet. We don't even have a road to support that infrastructure. So we need at least the elected official to say something about it, because we have that problem, enough problem with North Miami, with that flood problem. And then it cost me almost, my tax increased from $3,000 to $9,000 just like in 2 years. And then now I have to but flood, with that flood problem again, I have to pay a big amount of money again for tax. I think that's unfair. So we, the citizen of North Miami, we invested money. I'm the only person with a duplex in there. I don't know what to do with my tenants. Now they're forced, I'm gonna have to leave. All my tenants, they decide to leave because of that project.
All right,
So
thank you, sir.
I count on you to do something about it.
Thank you very much. May we have the next person that would like to speak on this item, please step forward. And again, I'd like your name and address for the record, please.
Jose Rivera. I live at 13325 Northeast 3rd Court. My house faces right there. When I open my front door, that's what I got. And these people have come here, and the young lady said, we got a narrow street. They destroy my grass, they crack my driveway, and now you're asking us, you know, this is an old development in the 60s and the 50s, and you want to put 24 homes in this place? They had their chance, and they built a storage place. They didn't have to build that. They would have had a beautiful entrance and exit from 135th. There wouldn't have been no problem. But the person, the developer, gets greedy, and they got to put a storage. They had their entrance and exit. Now they want to come on a quiet street where I've lived there for 35 years. That is a quiet street. And now all of a sudden, I don't care what he says. The traffic is going to get bad. Now, when we get the auto parts store, it's going to get even worse. And he says that he knocked on the door. I'm right across from this nightmare. I ain't never seen nobody knock on my door to talk to me about how I feel. Now, nobody in my block is happy about this. We look at you guys to defend us, to say, look, they had their chance to put their exit and entrance on 135th. Why they got to come into a quiet street and try to develop that? And even if they say it's for parking and all of that, it's not going to be a quiet street no more once this is all developed. So I look for you guys to help us out, because who do we got if we ain't got you guys, huh? Because nobody wants it. We don't want nobody coming and developing right there on our quiet street. Nobody wants it. So it's up to you guys to help us out. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Next speaker, please, come forward. I see two people. I believe he's yielding to the young lady. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Lori Landgrebe.
Can you
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
My name is Lori Landgrebe, and I'm at 385 Northeast 131st Street on the corner of Northeast 3rd Court. I concur with all the comments. There's so much wrong with this idea that it's very hard for me to even comment. The combination of the plat doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Obviously, they intended this to be used for ingress and egress on Northeast 3rd Court. I also want to point your attention to the fact that the plan for the fact that they have planned this from all along is on the internet. That you guys, and I quote, the existing owners jointly approved through the city in addition to a potential conditional use permit for an even greater amount of density. It is in reference to this project on the internet that I will forward to you for review. The Northeast 3rd Court is way too narrow and too small of a street to handle this type of not only traffic flow, but this size of a project. The flooding, I'm glad that he had done some study a few days ago on ingress and egress, because the answer would have been 0 cars. 0 cars could get through Northeast 3rd Court 3 days ago, 4 days ago, 5 days ago. We could not drive down Northeast 3rd Court 12 days out of this month. 12 days, Northeast 3rd Court was unpassable to traffic. So that is how frequent, and it had nothing to do with this once-in-a-lifetime storm that we had this weekend. So in addition to that, you know, I would just conclude to say, I just hope that the tail is not wagging the dog here, that the developers have already had the self-fulfilling prophecy that this is a done deal. They've already done all this construction. They've caused havoc in our neighborhood. Our neighbors' properties are flooding. They have broken driveways, trucks, construction equipment coming through our small neighborhood.
Okay.
I think because they think this is a done deal. And we hope that you defend us as a residents. We do not want
Thank
this.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Another speaker, come forward. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Rodriguez. I live in 13235, 13231 Northeast 3rd Court. I live for 38 years over there. I see the new development they got over there. I think they're gonna make about 24 units, something like that. And I think this place, they're not gonna be like they used to be, nice and quiet place. And I got 4 grandsons that used to come in the weekend to my house. And I used to walk outside to the sidewalk, they running bicycle back and forth. I know my my life they're gonna change about that, because I know with us bunch of with the development, there's gonna be so many people over there, so many traffic, because they wanna put the exit to the 3rd Court. Why they not do for 135th on the 3rd Avenue? Why they not put over there? So for me, I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's fair. So in other words, for me, my life, they gotta change. Gonna be. I lived for 38 years over there. Nice and quiet and peace. I got good neighbor. I know nothing better than that. But now, they're gonna change. I think they can do something else better than that to us. Please, help us. We need it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Next speaker, please come forward. Anyone else wishing to address this? I don't believe so. Okay, public, there's 4. All right. At this point, public hearing is now closed.
The applicant might.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, that's right. Sir, forgive me, Mr. Porter, you have a chance for rebuttal, please. Step forward.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, just to clarify some misconceptions. First of all, we don't have a website, but we've encountered some confusion in our discussion with some of the neighbors already, and it's understandable on their part. There is additional land to our south that has nothing to do with this matter, and there may be development plans on that property. I don't know. I haven't seen any website, but one of the first things we have tried to clarify in our discussions with a number of people is that we don't have multiple acres. We're not attempting to build apartments. We have 1.5 acres. We're attempting to develop townhouses in a total number of 24 maximum. There's some confusion, and I think it's understandable, and we would pledge to try to eliminate that confusion going forward in our discussions with the community. I can't tell you what's happening on adjacent properties or if anything has been filed at the city, but we have no plans in terms of myself and our development team. We have no plans beyond this development to develop further in this area. It's a largely built out area, as you know. We will work with the community to discuss our traffic impacts, which we think are minimal, but there are impacts. There's impacts with any development, and we will discuss those going forward, not only with staff, but with the community. And I would say this in closing. We don't think this is a done deal. We're not here as a done deal. We're here as a first step of several steps. But we would ask for your support tonight with our commitments going forward. We would ask for it in light of the fact that the code and really the case law really dictates that you support this item as staff has supported it, because we comply with the regulations for the tentative plat. Plats, as you know, because you've been doing this a long time, plats are different than zoning and comprehensive planning. If the applicant is compliant with the underlying regulations, one of the cases calls it the published criteria, then the board is not left with discretion. The board must approve the item. Again, that said, we do not think this is a done deal. We will be back. We will be back in the community. To the fourth gentleman that spoke, I didn't catch his name. He lives right across the street. He's right, we didn't knock on his door. We've called him, and we've asked if he would speak to us, and he has declined, and that's his right. But we have reached out, and we will continue to reach out. With that, Mr. Chairman, I appreciate your attention, and we ask for your support. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The public hearing is closed on this item. We're going to now open up discussion, and I'm going to address staff. My first question to you is, can you enlighten us a little bit with one of the comments mentioned was the fact that there was an advertised website. Are you aware of this, and was this any factor when this was put together and presented to us? Can you enlighten us with this
Really,
supposedly website?
We've discovered this happens a lot with realtors who are listing properties. They will put forward that the project has been approved. It has not. There's been no application for
Debbie, I'm
anything
sorry.
except for these 2 lots for the tentative plot. So we have not, they've not received any approvals. They've not come in to apply for anything other than this tentative plat for these 2 lots have we received at the city.
My next question is, item was brought up by someone that there's another development in the plans within this area or directly adjacent to this area or in the neighborhood. Can you tell us if any of this is factual or that the staff is aware of any of this taking place?
Well, at one point, probably 2 or 3 years ago, another development project came in and just did an inquiry on what they would have to do to develop, and that was it. So we've, as I said, we've not had any applications, we've not had anything beyond a what can I do with my property conversation, which we have all the time, you know, when folks want to see what can I do with my property. But no applications, and that would be a totally different project than this, because again, this is the only application that we have received for anything on that street. Or in that general area outside of the
recognizing
commercial.
that what
Yes,
the
sir.
gentleman said regarding the steps necessary for applying for the plat. This property was cleared, because I've driven by there and I'm familiar with the area because I live right on the other side of the canal. I'm a little concerned with why that was allowed to be cleared and basically prepped for development when the first process of obtaining a plat was undertaken. Can you explain how that, how the developer can go forth in doing that without any knowledge of the city, or that the city would condone them clearing this property and already believing that they're going to get an okay for this to be developed?
One has nothing to do with the other, sir. You can clear property without certain permits, depending upon what kind of vegetation is on the property. The zoning department handles that. We have an arborist who actually goes out and looks at trees, and our code says if you have certain types of trees, you don't need a permit. You know, you don't need special approvals from the city. They can go to the building department, you can clear, you can demolish, you can do everything all day long. You don't have permission to build though. So you can demolish a building on a property, you go to the building department, go directly to the building department, they'll issue a demolition permit. In the case of this, they're able to do that sort of just by virtue of what type of vegetation was on that property.
Right.
And it may have been, and often our code says that you have to remove certain types of problematic trees. I'm not part of that application, sir. That comes from the zoning department and the arborist. But I did confirm that it was done legally. And I did confirm that with our acting director today, who is also head of the zoning division as well.
And that includes flattening the land and the property, making it even. That's not a part of what would be considered pre-construction work or anything, correct?
It depends on what they
if you level off
applied
the
for.
land,
Yeah, normally when you remove trees, they want you to
level off the land.
level it off, because it becomes then a hazard. There's a liability issue. But I can't really respond
Because
to
right now
what
it's a
the-
big dust pit
I can't
and a
really
mud
respond.
pit after the rain.
I can't respond to what the building department issued as far as demolition or leveling or anything like that. But they don't require special permission. They can go directly to the building department.
Yeah,
You just don't have permission to put stuff back.
Right.
So you can demolish all day long with you may not be able to put anything back there, you know? So that's where the issue comes in is you don't need special permission outside of the building department to demolish. If it's certain types of trees, it requires a tree removal permit. They have worked with the city to clear that, and the applicant may be able to give you a little bit more detail because they were directly involved with the building and the zoning department on that issue. And I strongly recommend that you ask that question to the applicant. It's a good question to ask.
So basically, in our process, we leave the door open on a tentative plat resolution that we don't account for any future issues that might arise, such as allowing the plat to go forward without looking at the area around there, to recognize that there may be a flooding issue, to recognize that it might be an overdensity issue, that it may be a bad design for that one particular plot of land. There's no guidelines, in other words, in a tentative plat.
Right, yes, sir. At
approval
this point, you
process.
don't have a design. You don't have a plan. There's no plan to review.
Correct.
There's nothing to review. What you're not doing any entitlements. You're not doing any design. There's nothing to review. They will have to address issues when they come back.
Right.
And make application. Now, a road flooding that may or may not be driven by just their property alone, that's something that they will be having to look at through the development process and working with Public Works. And again, as I mentioned to you earlier, Public Works is actually working on updating their stormwater master plan, because since that stormwater master plan was done, they've actually incorporated the area, the Third Court Memorial Street area into the city, which was not included in our stormwater master plan. So now, once they update that, they'll be looking at flooding issues throughout the city as part of that master plan, and then how to address it. So you don't have anything in front of you, and the code, Miami-Dade County Code, is really, really specific in what needs to be shown on a tentative plat. It doesn't talk about what kind of future development is going to occur. As long as it meets the underlying zoning and comprehensive plan and shows these different things on the property, on the plat. At tentative plat, they don't even have to show ingress, egress. Final plat, they will have to show ingress, egress, all the easements. So it ends up looking like a survey, is what it ends up looking like as a final plat. And that gets recorded. And then they come back with all the development plans that have to address drainage, that has to address, wastewater, has to address, how it's going to look and how it will be laid out. And then staff actually then has something to review and provide you comment, just like we do with those conditional use permits
Now,
that will come before you.
Directing to council, Mr. Porter brought up the fact that because everything, he's followed the guidelines, he did mention that the legality, he is legal within the parameters that the city has already have in place, that we are basically put in a position of having to approve this. Is his statement on that correct?
That would be Mr. Held.
Mhm. So there is a concept that once a plat application fulfills the requirements of a city's code, it's what's called a ministerial act requiring approval, which is enforceable by mandamus. So it's not a discretionary act anymore. What is different here is that staff is recommending conditions to address some of the concerns of the neighbors. And if you impose those conditions, you might mitigate those concerns. On page 111 of the agenda, item number 3 is addressing if ingress egress is proposed onto Northeast Third Court as part of a request for final plat approval or submission of any development approval request, the applicant shall demonstrate traffic flow will not disrupt the quality of life for the residents along that street and conduct a traffic analysis proving that. And I would suggest you also add, since ingress and egress would be affected by flooding, that they look at the flooding issue and how they can mitigate that as well. Now, one of the things that staff has said, the third issue that I see is on density. If they have to come back to this commission and city council for the additional units, which would be 8, I think it's 8 units? Okay, so, and they're looking for 24. If that is denied, they'll only be able to build 16 units on the property. So, right, so you would be controlling the density that way. It's not that they're entitled to the 24 units if you approve today. It's that they can apply for the enhancement, and you are perfectly within your right to deny it.
Now,
So there's the three
well,
issues,
the
traffic,
fl-
flooding, and density.
The flooding brings about, the dilemma is the fact that the flooding could possibly be caused by the property that's adjacent to them facing 135th Street
That-
because of,
We-
I mean, I've looked at that. That's
Right,
a
but
high
re-
piece of
regardless
property.
of the
There's
cause-
drainage coming off of that
Right.
property onto that corner. And with that dip, now we have a problem of who's legally going to be liable for that flooding if we ask him to provide, you know, if we tack on impact criteria or whatever to address that. We can't.
I'm suggesting to you that if they are going to be using Northeast Third Court as an access way and relying on that, they have an obligation.
They do have an obligation.
To resolve the flooding issue in order to ensure that access.
Right.
You heard testimony that there were 12 days
Right.
recently that there was no access. What do these property
No,
owners do?
I've seen that too.
Yeah.
Again, I drive by there,
So-
I know, I'm familiar with what's going on with that flooding.
That could easily be added as an additional condition, in my opinion.
And I would be
And I certainly
happy
agree
to have
with that,
that
Mr. Held, and I think
added
if you
on
all
there.
make a motion to add the additional
Well, let's
condition,
get some input from everyone
once,
first
you know,
before
that's
we.
something you can do, and we'll add it.
All right, okay, let's begin with, Mr. Reach, I'll let you go ahead and talk first.
I like to ask that the attorney or the developer a couple of questions of him.
Sure. Mr. Porter,
Mr. Proctor?
I'm sorry, Mr. Proctor.
Yes, sir.
Are these gonna be rentals or are they gonna be for sale?
Not certain at this point, but I would say more likely than not, they will be for sale.
They're gonna be for sale.
Yes.
And, you know, this is an established neighborhood. And I like to see some kind of a schematic, some kind of a plan before we pull it out of the air and put it in there. Now, I know we suppose we can't, but I'd like to get a feel for this. You're gonna sell these, and right now they're allowed to do 16, correct?
I believe so, sir.
Six-
Don't count me on that number, because we don't talk entitlements at this level. We
Okay,
just talk
I'm-
providing pieces.
You know, William Jennings Bryan said, when the law and common sense collide, it's little
Sometimes,
common
yeah,
sense.
Exactly. Common sense should
Um,
prevail.
These you think are gonna, do you have an idea how many square feet or what you're gonna put in there, how you're gonna design the entrance going in from Third Court?
Well,
Are you gonna put a wall, are you gonna put a wall up, you're gonna put landscaping up, or you wanna enhance the beauty of the neighborhood?
I think the answer to the last question is clearly yes. Some of the details in terms of questions like walls, we don't know yet. We're in the process of finishing those designs. And just a slight correction, there's 18 as of right units, and a
Thank you, sir.
conditional use would be for the 6 between 18 and 24.
Thank you, sir.
How many bedrooms are we?
So as of right, it's
Looking
16,
at
sir?
3-bedroom, 2-bath units.
I'm sorry?
18,
3-bedroom, 2-bath units. I do not have a square footage for you, but we're looking at substantial units that will be suitable for families or multiple people.
Hey, the other day, Mike, you and I think Dr. Medina was there, we took a course with the city clerk's office. The community was involved, and there's certain things that we were looking at where we can ask developers to do. And, you know, you're gonna come into this neighborhood, and, listen, I'm a capitalist, and I hope you make a lot of money. But it's nice to go back and give back to the community. And that third court's a mess. And, you know, have you, before we vote on this, have you gone to the community, have you sat down with these people and spoke with them and said, look, let's have a community meeting, hear them out, and you know, a good neighbor policy. I think you get a heck of a lot more like that, and show them what you want to do, show them the kind of design, and have a consensus. Because right now, I get a feeling from the community that this is adversarial. And it's not fair to you, it's not fair to them. And my suggestion would be, and I don't want to tell you what to do, but I would kind of table this right now and come back if that's the smart thing to do. And after you have a meeting, and you know, and show them what you actually want to do. If you're going to put up a thing of beauty, then that's one thing. If it's just going to be a cookie cutter townhouse, and you know, people are going to be running in and out, and in their minds it's going to ruin their quality of life, then that's not the way you want to do business. And I'm not trying to tell you what to do, sir. I'm just suggesting this, because I know if I was in their position, I might feel a little bit more comfortable knowing what's going on. Like this thing that we took the other, was it about a month ago, Mike, or I forget, where the developer would come in, like your guys would come in and elevate that road and put the proper drainage in. That might go a long way, or contribute to the proper drainage, the storm water. I don't, we can't make you do that, but it's just a suggestion, and maybe we can put it in this thing here if we, as the good counselor said.
I guess, Debbie,
I don't want to go on a tangent, I'm sorry.
what you might hear from this commission is, in the past, when we've had these come before us, we've had more complete plans that we can at least get an idea of the process. But if I recall, we rejected the Wawa that was going to go in there because of the fact that they came in with virtually nothing to tell us about what they wanted to do, and it got shot down. And you know, we're looking at almost the same thing here, where this is not a very good piece of property to develop. It's a weird shape. You're going to have a storage unit off to the west, and all of a sudden you've got this little cubby hole that a developer wants to go in and put in a development. And as a panel, we have to judge whether or not a project is going to look good, the right fit for the community. And so far, we have nothing to work with. We can't tell whether or not this is going to be, you know, and we're gonna elongate the whole process by allowing this plat, and then come back and perhaps either accept it or reject it. We don't know yet. We don't see it, but you know, we're kind of put in a position where, you know, we're going by good faith, and my logic's dictating to me that it may not be a good fit with what we're seeing, or that we don't know, and you don't know, because you've just said, you know, that we don't know until we can start the process. But to me, we've had projects come to us before a tentative plat that's already kind of been laid out. A vision has been presented to us. That helps us to decide, and there's been more communications with the neighbors.
Well, sir, it's not the plat that you can deny. When they come back for development approvals is where you can deny, where you can actually see something.
I understand that, but I'm just
This is not a requirement by Miami-Dade County Code. They've told you they are going to do 24 units. How it's designed, how it's laid out in the norm is the next piece of this. So a tentative plat, the only thing the tentative plat does, or the plat itself, is combine those two lots. They still have to come back with the development plans. When Walmart came in, or was planning to come in, it wasn't so much the plat as the just the idea of the project was so gigantic, and it was going to be where the Citadel Plaza is now. So this is actually further in. They're doing it the right way. They're doing the tentative plat, then they do the final plat. They're in the middle of designing it to submit for the development approvals. So you're asking them to do something that, number one, our code doesn't require. Number two, is not the norm. The norm, as Mr. Held said, is it's not tied to how the project will look. It's tied, does it meet the statutory and legal requirements for what needs to be shown on a plat, and it does. A plat is really essentially a survey-looking document.
And I believe I did ask a question of
Yes,
that.
sir.
And prior to that, to our council, to you, and I was not given that clear an answer before, so that's why
Of course, sir.
I'm questioning you now.
Yeah, I just want, we always try to protect you as the decision makers to make sure that you understand what is required. Mr. Held explained the ministerial piece of it. This has a long way to go before they'll even get anywhere, because once they submit an application, as some of the folks who have worked with us before at City Hall in our department, we put them through the ringer before it even comes to you. We make them, nope, go back, try it again. Nope, go back, try it again. You need to go to the community. You need to have a design now. If you're ready to do some development, and you're asking for development approval, they're not asking for development approval here. They're not asking for that. They're asking, what they've met is what your council has told you, they've met the requirements. I wouldn't bring it, staff would not bring this forward if it didn't meet all of the code requirements. What we have to focus on now is getting them through this piece of it. Development, when they come in and want to meet with us on development, the pre-application meeting is gonna say, first thing you need to do is take this conceptual plan you have and now take it out to the neighbors. Go talk to the neighbors. Because they have, as of right, they can do 18 dwelling units now, right? They'll just have to go through the plotting process. They want to add additional units, which means it's a conditional use permit, and you know we put your conditions on the conditional use permit. It would be, Mr. Held, I think, has a great recommendation to add a number 3 on, I think I'm going to ask him to help me wordsmith, he and Ms. Warren to help me wordsmith a recommendation for you on the flooding. And then, you know, they've asked you, they said their idea is 24 units. You can deny them those additional dwelling units, but as of right, that's what they can do.
Right now, you said 16, 18?
It's 18.
18.
They just corrected me.
They can build it regardless, right? Now, right now, they can go in and do what they want and.
Except Miami-Dade County requires them to unify those properties through a plat.
Right.
Because they're unplatted. And all unplatted properties have to be platted, right? But they can build that. They've met the plat requirements, and they can go in and build 18 dwelling units as of right. Without, the only thing they have to go through is the Development Review Committee. And they're now going to take it and make it 24 two-story townhomes, which under the code, it's allowed to go up to 35 feet in height. So at 2 stories, they would be well within the R4 allowance of 35 feet and 12 dwelling units per acre. They're just gonna be asking you for the conditional use permit to give them those additional 6, whatever it comes up to, 6
Yeah,
dwelling
I
units.
don't want to get too far into that, because we need to resolve the issue as to the legalities of this plat going forward as stated by by what we have presented to us and what staff has told us, that, you know, we basically have no other option but to allow this. If we deny it, what is the situation? What happens if?
If you deny it, what happens?
Yeah. Can that denial be challenged?
Yes.
I'm sorry, repeat.
That's what I needed to,
If we deny it, what happens?
it can be challenged. It legally can be challenged.
I mean, it's their right to
Right.
build, I understand that.
Right.
But we have some by adding that additional condition, and they've already acknowledged that they know that it floods and they're going to be talking about drainage, because we're gonna be talking with them about drainage and all the other issues related to development. I think by adding that condition at this stage, I think is appropriate. And will
I've
travel
already
along with the
drafted it.
plat, by the way.
So the additional condition on 3, it starts, if egress is proposed onto Northeast Third Court, as part of the request for final approval or submission of any development approval request, the applicant shall, there's an existing A and B, so C would say, evaluate and present plans to mitigate the flooding issue testified to adhering on Northeast Third Court to accommodate the proposed ingress and egress.
Read it again, Mr. Hill. Evaluate and present plans to,
Mitigate the flooding issue testified to adhering on Northeast Third Court to accommodate the proposed ingress and egress.
Okay, now, we still have some more comments there from our panel. The chair recognizes Ms. Plumer.
So I just have a few questions. The first question is to the gentleman that is representing the builder. You heard the testimony from the residents. And I would like to know, what is your position on the current flooding? If the people who live there currently told you that they've spent 12 days and could not leave their home, I'm trying to understand how can you bring 24 more units, which would probably bring another 50+ people there that have the potential of getting stuck in their homes and not being able to leave.
Through the chair, our position is twofold. Number one, as I stated, we're not going to have any units. Therefore, we're not going to have a great amount of paved surfaces other than the ingress and egress in that area along Third Court. And my second comment would be...
I'm sorry?
We will not have an extensive amount of pavement or other interruptions to the ground along Third Court. The development with the parking lot and the units and so forth will be back several hundred feet west of Third Court and will not interrupt or impact drainage on Third Court.
So you're saying that...
Having said that, we have no objection to the condition that was just enumerated by the city attorney. We have no objection to looking at the flooding, evaluating it, and as he said, presenting plans to mitigate flooding. We have no objection to that condition.
So I just want to be clear, these 24 families that would possibly come and purchase new homes there, are you saying that when it floods, it will not impact them?
I'm saying through the chair that as I have heard it, the major problem with flooding is along Third Court. The residential units that would be placed if this application is successful.
Residential or
yes, residential
homes
townhouses
to be sold?
Townhouses.
To be sold?
Yes. Those units will be back several hundred feet west of Third Court.
And I had I know that one of the individuals who came up and spoke stated that at the time when you first began the development of the storage, you had in mind that you would eventually want to build out these 24 homes. Is that correct?
I am not aware of that at all, no ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Are you the same, now, for the record, are you at all connected with that developer that is, has that storage facility being constructed at this time?
I am not. I did not. That matter came before the city council on several occasions.
That's a
And
different, that's a different
I had
development
no
altogether,
involvement in
correct?
those actions.
All right.
I don't think you understand the question. It's not whether or not you have had any involvement. Is it the same developer?
I'm aware of who the developer is.
Is it the same developer?
It is, that developer is part of this development team.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Mr. McDermott?
First off, that third court area is a mess, always has been a mess. Because of the work on 135th Street, I take third court all the time. So, you know, I understand what the young lady was talking about, the narrowness of the road. That might be something that you might want to address as well, because it looks like that road has been in disrepair for a while. So you've got multiple problems there. You have a road that's in disrepair and narrow, you know, and of course you have that water problem. In reference to the warehouse, and by the way, Debbie, just a heads up, you know, there's like another warehouse going up 100 feet from this one. Anyway, that's a whole nother story. Yeah, there's another warehouse going up right across the street.
Have not seen the development
Yeah,
application.
that's one that got approved about a year ago. But anyway, that warehouse that I know people have talked about, that's in the C1 district. Am I correct?
Yes.
So it wouldn't be buildable anyway, because that's commercial. Is that correct?
Well,
I think Ms. Love is anxious to answer your question.
Okay.
for the purposes of building a storage facility, yes. For the purpose of building any residential units on it, no. As far as if you are asking, could they have an entry point from the residential side through that?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I mean, but that's an agreement that would have to be made with the different ownership entities.
But basically, you'd have to go through jump through all kinds of hoops to
It's actually an easement.
to make
It's
that.
actually a.
No, I'm talking
it's a-
about it building on C1.
Oh, no,
building
you
resi-
don't, you would not be building any residential on C1.
Right,
No,
right.
that's
Well,
not allowed.
That's an expensive piece of land for a driveway.
Yeah, it can be used though as an entry point, but again,
Yeah,
that's
because,
through a very specific shared access agreement, between the two
yeah,
entities.
because
and that's up to them.
basically this parcel is landlocked. Without using third court, this property is basically landlocked. So you almost have to figure out a way how to use this particular, you know, driveway. But this is just a tentative plat anyway, correct?
The final plat shows the
Right.
ingress, egress, and.
Which is going to be something that we're going to take a very hard look at when it comes back to us.
For development, you
So, I
won't
mean,
see
this
the
is
final
something
plat.
that-
'Cause The
Right.
final
Yeah.
plat just goes to
So
city
now
council.
it goes to the county and they have to make their comments.
Right, and then it'll go to city council, it does not come back to you. You get to see all the development approvals as they come through.
So
or
their
development
basic
requests.
request tonight is basically to approve a plat so that they could move it forward to do a development, rather than approving the development itself.
That's correct, sir. The purpose of a plat is to combine two parcels of
Combine
land.
two parcels, yeah, unity
Yes.
of plat, so
Mhm.
to combine the two parcels to move forward. So we're not really approving anything here as far as building.
That's correct, sir. You're not, as I started my presentation, you're not approving any sort of entitlements or development. That's why I keep going back. You're not doing the development approvals, but we want to hear, and I'm glad that the community turned out, because I'm a lone voice telling you our concern was the capacity of third court to handle any additional traffic. We are also concerned about the flooding that's there. And through this, adding this condition, this will travel along up into all the development approvals. So it'll be enforced by staff. We would have done it anyway, but it's a nice thing to add to this as a travel piece to go along with this plat. It won't appear on the plat itself because it's not a permanent condition. They're going to look at how they can mitigate the flooding on Third Court. Technically, they're only responsible for their own drainage, but you've heard the applicant tonight that they acknowledge that that street is problematic. And through the conditional use permit, we can work with them because there's no exaction issue. We're giving them density that they're not entitled to. So that's where we can add some conditions to it. They have to agree to those conditions, and oftentimes they want, most property owners who want to develop want to be good neighbors. I'm not going to say everybody does, but I'm going to say that the bulk that I have worked with that have come into the city, they understand that there are issues with the community, and they really do want. I don't have any particular thing to tell you other than through the conditional use permit. We do have opportunities to put in conditions, and even at the staff level, at the review, we can actually ask them to do things that normally we could not by Florida statute. And flooding is a major concern here, so we would be working with Public Works and the applicant to try to address the flooding and what could possibly happen. And because it's not just them, it's their development is going to fix any drainage that keeps from runoff from their property.
Right.
The issue then is when the stormwater plan comes out, when that analysis is done, what is it going to show that that street needs? Is it going to show that it needs, improved, I don't know, curb and gutters, or I don't know. I'm just making up something right now. And then that needs to then be put into the city's plan, and it could be, by the time this happens, that stormwater master plan should be done, because it's about a 6 to 9 months process once they've applied for any sort of development approval. It takes about 6 to 9 months to get through the process.
Right. Any other questions? Mr. Bob?
Yeah, so to...
Can you ask whoever's speaking to take their conversations outside?
Yeah.
It's hard to hear.
Please, any side comments or any conversations, please go out in the hallway and discuss with the person that you're talking with now, other than inside here. Thank you. Mr. Bob,
thank you. So initially, once I heard references to case law that dictated how we were supposed to vote, my ears perked up as an attorney, so fortunately Attorney Held pointed me in the right direction. Not to belabor the point, I think overall, I think just a thorough neighborhood analysis of the area would show that the residents aren't on board, number one. And with every new development, obviously there is an impact to the community and the quality of life. And I think given the way this area is situated, adding 18 townhomes is a huge impact. And when reference was made to one vehicle passing in rush hour in the morning and in the afternoon, I think that might have been severely understated. I think you could drive on 135th at any time and it's packed, not to mention, turning into a narrow street like that. So I think, the traffic analysis alone, once that's completed, would show that the impact to this community would be very heavy, just simply because of the influx of traffic. The average home has 2 vehicles. So if you're taking that plus all of those units in a narrow street like that, it's very limited as to what can be done. So again, I'm interested to see how it all pans out, but they're very limited in what they can do because of how Northeast Third Court is. And when you drive through, so if you're talking about 18 homes, 2 cars on average each home, the amount of people, It's going to be a huge impact. And I think if even just, you know, on a preliminary basis, if more was done to engage the community, I think the initial plan would have been revised because just, well, just as far as the 18 homes, it's been, right, the concept itself. Correct. Because just based on the turnout tonight, you know, I'm sure they would have had that had they, you know, engaged the community in a, I want to say, a more meaningful way. But needless to say, you know, we'll see how it all, you know, turns out. But, you know, and then you have the easements issues that we'll have to address as well. But, you know, we'll cross that bridge when we reach it.
All right, thank you, Mr. Bob. Finally, Dr. Medina, thank you for your patience, sir. Yes, sir.
Ms. Love, quick question. So what we're doing at this point is uniting two plots and making them one.
Yes, sir.
And by doing that, we will give the big lot access to 3rd Street. So that will be a step in the wrong direction as far as I can tell.
Well, they'll have to show that at final plat, their ingress, egress, and as I said in my staff report, we've had concerns about the size of Third Court, the capacity of Third Court.
Yeah, but you see, the way I handle things is that I don't pass the hot potato to the next person. This is not something that I do. So it's better, you know, to cut the head at the beginning, and that's that. So, you know, this will be a step in the wrong direction to unite the plots. That way they'll have access to 3rd, and, you know, I'm with the people usually.
All right, any other comments? Okay, I'm going to.
I was going to ask
call
counsel, I just want to ask our staff attorney this question.
Go ahead, sir.
Sir, are we required to give people access to their property, or how does that work? I mean, by law, could he force the city to give us?
Plotting doesn't, we have to show, they have to show it final plat.
Are you using your?
They have to show it, I'm gonna let Mr. Held talk about case law, but, and Ms. Warren, but you can plat a lot without ingress egress.
I'm sorry, I didn't.
You can plat a lot without ingress egress all day long.
So he can plot that regardless?
Yeah.
So,
But final plat, they have to show the ingress egress points as part of Miami-Dade County Code. You go to a lot of places, and including here in Florida that I have been to and worked in, where they've platted properties and you don't have, you're landlocked. So you can sell it, and some goofy then will buy it without access, and then they have to figure out with the surrounding properties some sort of easement access to their property. And in this case, as my staff report indicated, staff has had concerns about it going out onto 3rd Court.
I'm sure they had somebody.
And if there were all.
You speaking to the mic?
Yes, sir. Staff has had problem, or concern rather, about it going out, traffic going out onto 3rd Court due to its capacity. I am not an engineer, but I've been doing this 30 years, and you can see that it causes me pause. But traffic engineers, they study this. They study how much capacity the road can carry, based on its width, based upon different factors that are included in that, and that's what they would have to produce as far as the development and showing that there is capacity. Then they have to do some sort of mitigation. I don't know if they can widen 3rd Court. I don't know about the right-of-way, how much right-of-way is available, without then being right up in, somebody's driveway, right? So I don't know if there's the availability to even widen 3rd Court. It came over from the county like it is, and It was duplex zoning over there. Our duplex zoning is R4, and that's what was assigned to these properties many years ago when it came into the city. I can't tell you that anything other, and I'm going to let Mr. Held talk about case law. For final plat in Miami-Dade County, you have to show the ingress egress. But he's already told you their intent is to take it out onto third court.
Well,
The
yeah.
applicant's representative has already
That- yeah.
indicated that.
We
Mr. Held,
We do understand that.
that
But
question that he
I
asked?
think everybody's concern is that, that we're not guaranteeing him that he's going to be able to, nothing's guaranteed, even if we approve this. That's what I think the petitioners, and that's, I think, the message we're trying to tell him, is that, you know, we're going to allow, you know, we understand that what the process is, that we're joining two properties together. But at the same time, the message that we want to convey to him, and I think everybody else on the panel is the same way, it's going to be a long, hard road to make sure that all that we are asking for will be satisfied in the future as far as how this development will progress. And nothing's going to be guaranteed. That a lot of it may not be approved or denied. I mean, you know, just
Table?
no. You know, there's some question whether or not we want to table this. I don't want to table it. I don't think it'll do any good.
Your attorney.
So, Mr. Chair, first, I want to modify my prior advice to you. This is, your action tonight is just a recommendation to the City Council. So if you recommend denial, that wouldn't generate a lawsuit.
All right.
City Council has to decide
Wouldn't
whether
stop.
to approve a tentative plat or not. And
But it would
they
be
can
sending a
also-
message
Sorry?
to them
Yes, the
as to our
decision is
displeasure.
theirs, not
I
yours.
understand.
But you can make a strong recommendation if you don't think it's appropriate for the area, without liability to the city.
Well, on that point then, I'll entertain a motion for either approval or disapproval of the
Does,
item.
I was gonna suggest, does the applicant wanna maybe meet with the, have us table it, meet with the neighborhood and see if they can come up with something a little bit more?
Well, he's still going to be, whether or not we reject this or approve it, he's still going to, it's going to go to the council as either our recommend, you know, we can reject it because we could tell the council we rejected it because we felt that we didn't
And then how
think it
about,
was, the plan
like
was viable.
Mr. Held said before,
He would have to do that between now and the city council meeting anyway. So delaying it for further discussion to come back to you isn't going to really add
Right.
anything.
Yeah, I would rather we just either reject it or approve it tonight.
I made a motion to disapprove.
There's been a motion to disapprove. Do I have a second on that motion? Second by Mr. Mirabeau. We'll have a roll call vote. Mr. Bob? Okay, that's a yes for,
Yes for disapprove.
yeah, okay.
Yes for no.
So just for everyone to understand, if a yes vote will be to disapprove the resolution, a no vote would be an approval. Everybody understand that? Thank you, Mr. Bob. Ms. Lemur?
I second.
No, I mean.
Oh, no.
You vote yes. Yes.
Oh, yes, I vote to disapprove.
Okay, there's, Mr. Demir says yes to disapproving the item. Mr. Medina?
Yes.
Mr. Medina votes yes to disapprove. Mr. Reach?
Yes.
Mr. Reach is a yes to disapprove. Mr. McDermott
Yes.
is a yes. The chair, Mr. Ernst, is also a yes. So I believe we have a unanimous decision to disapprove, and this item will still go before the city council. So I urge anyone that is either for this item or against this item to attend the meeting, which will be, when will this item be presented? July 12th. I thank all those that came before you. Mr. Mr. Proctor, thank you. At this time, we have passed the 10 o'clock cutoff that we have for the items that we discussed. As a point of order, do I ask for a continuation for this meeting rather than an adjournment? Adjourn? Okay, so we're asking for do we need to make that a motion?
A motion would be appropriate.
Okay, so a motion, I'm calling for a motion that we continue this
So moved.
public hearing until the 9th. I have a motion and a second to it, and I think we all, is unanimous.
Mike.
Mike did. I know, the deflector shields we have up here make it very difficult to hear you all, and for us, I'm sure to project to you all also. So just to give you a little bit, yes, everyone has approved the.
Is that 7 o'clock on Thursday?
So 7 o'clock, the next items will be read at the next portion of this continued meeting will be Thursday night, 7 p.m. here in this chamber. So everyone that, I please urge you to please attend. And that will be the only item, I believe, on this, on our agenda. There's 2 items. Right, the zoning and the future land map regarding the next item will be addressed on Thursday night. Thank you all for coming. Appreciate your patience, and I appreciate everyone that had input tonight. I'll call for an adjournment, or removed. See you Thursday night, everyone. This was a tough one. Thank you.